Okay, so did we share the link in the,
I'm sharing it now in the chat. So
and then Troy can, oh, you're recording now. Okay, great. Okay, so did the recording of the start even work then, Sarah? No, I guess we'll roll call again. Okay, so I will recall to order at 6:10 p.m. Sarah, do you want to take the roll?
Take a roll call.
Yeah.
Bowman.
Present.
Boyd.
Here.
Bugs.
Present.
Cerno Prado.
Here.
Cresswell.
Here.
Hernandez.
Present.
Hillbrands.
Here.
Myself here. Martinsek.
Here.
MacArthur.
Here.
Menjivar.
Menjivar's here.
Powers.
Here.
Zen.
Here.
My apologies for the technical issues.
No worries. I think it will be good when we get it all working.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
Thanks.
Have a second?
I'll second.
Roll call vote for approval of the agenda. Bowman.
Yay.
Boyd. Boggs.
Yes.
I'm sorry, Miss Boyd.
Yay. Sorry.
No, it's Cerna Prado.
Yay.
Cresswell.
Yay.
Hernandez.
Yay.
Hillbrands.
Yay.
Ma, yes. Martinsek.
Yes.
MacArthur.
Yay.
Menjivar.
Yay.
Powers.
Yes.
Zen. 13 were yays, 0 were nays. The agenda is approved.
Great. Okay, we can move on to public participation. And
So we have to approve the minutes. I'm going to make a motion to approve the minutes from the January 19th, 2021 LSC regular and closed meetings. Do I have a second?
I second the motion.
For Hernandez, seconded. Roll call vote. Bowman.
Yay.
Boyd.
Yay.
Bugs.
Yes.
Cerna Prado.
Yes.
Cresswell.
yes.
Hernandez.
Yes.
Hillbrands.
Yay.
Ma, yay. Martinsek.
Yes.
MacArthur.
Yes.
Menjivar.
Yay.
Powers.
Yay.
Zen.
Yay.
That's 13 out of 13. Thank you.
Okay, next on business is public participation. And people, I hope, have made it into the meet. Let me make sure this is refreshed. Great. First person up, Amy Hand. I think I saw you there. And I'm not sure if you can unmute yourself or if Troy will unmute you. And for public participation, we encourage people, please keep it in 3 minutes. Sarah will give you a little warning at 2:30 so you know that your time is wrapping up. And yeah, take it away, Amy, when you are unmuted. Uh-oh, you're still muted. I don't think I have it.
Oh, wait, I think I just figured it out. Sorry,
Okay,
it's my first.
There you are.
So I didn't see the right spot. So thank you for letting me speak. I'm Amy Hand. I'm a parent of a Jones Jr. She loves the school, and we've been very happy with Jones College Prep, obviously. I wrote out something to say just so I could make sure to keep it. So here goes. I wanted to speak today to represent the many parents I know who support the CPS plan to gradually and safely reopen public schools. I believe that families should have a choice to send their kids back to a hybrid version of in-person instruction using the mitigation strategies to offset COVID risks and that our scientists and public health officials have provided to us. Recently, the Jones LSC wrote a letter to CPS to discourage reopening schools. The letter states, "We are also disheartened that CPS did not fully engage or seek input from parents, students, teachers, staff, and other community stakeholders about the CPS reopening plan. I feel that Jones LSC did this very thing by issuing a letter that does not represent ideas and opinions of all the Jones stakeholders. Though the LSC letter mentions input from Jones parents, this did not occur in any meaningful way that I'm aware of. Article 3 of the Jones LSC bylaws states that the LSC's decision-making should be guided by what is best for the school. This includes the school itself and the broader school community connected to it. My question is, what real attempt did the LSC make to get input from the broader school community when it issued this letter? Also, the Jones LSC bylaws, Article 4C states that the LSC will not devote or allow the use of its resources for the publication and distribution of statements or campaign material in any political campaign. The Jones LSC letter was used by CTU in very political ways to support CTU's public posturing towards the mayor and the CPS leadership to try to prove that the majority of the Jones community opposes safe school reopening. This was misleading since so few families were consulted before that LSC letter was composed and issued. I would ask that the Jones LSC make better efforts to represent the school community more fully by seeking input from the entire parent community in the future, perhaps using email or social media where more parents can provide their opinions. The recently elected LSC officers ran on a platform of, quote, transparency and accountability in how the LSC operates and makes decisions, end quote. So going forward, how will the LSC gather input from all stakeholders and put these principles in action? Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Amy. The next speaker is Carol Deely. And there you are.
Hello. I can't see myself, but hopefully you can see me.
Yep.
My name's Carol Deely, and I'm a parent of a Jones Jr. I appreciated the email last week from the LSC alerting us to tonight's meeting and the opportunity to speak and to join the LSC committees. So I plan to do all of the aforementioned, so thank you. My student has had an exceptional experience at Jones. It was her first choice for high school, and she's not regretted 1 minute. She speaks glowingly of her teachers, the administration, and staff. After learning of the January 19th letter regarding the Jones LSC urging the suspension of in-person instruction, I decided I needed to do my homework. I'm here tonight advocating for students' interests by having an option for in-person learning for all families in CPS. I would like the LSC to know that many Jones families seek in-person learning because remote learning is causing students and parents to fall behind, increasing significant mental health issues, and simply not meeting the social and emotional learning needs of students. In my family, our 7th grader has an IEP. While home for remote learning, someone needs to sit with him the whole time from 8 to 2:30. This began last March, continued over the summer for summer school, and in the fall. We were able to make arrangements most of the time to ensure he was supervised and assisted as needed. Our junior has experienced anxiety, as have we as parents. How many families can dedicate someone full-time to ensuring one or more children are learning instead of working? How many children are falling behind because their parents are at work and they are left to fend for themselves? How many children haven't shown up at all? Many of us do not endorse spending more valuable funds to improve remote learning when it is a temporary solution to a temporary teaching method. Rather, let's focus on opening up schools safely for the 77,000 students that have already indicated that they are ready, and incrementally open the school so that more parents across the city can see the successful reopenings and will send more children to school. On another note, 77,000 students is twice the number of students in the second largest school district in Illinois. So 77,000 is no small number. Enough is enough. I ask that we all work together in collaboration with the administration of Jones for our school, with the LSC together, and with all the parents and constituents in our community so that everyone's voices are heard and we are in support of each other. Thank you.
Thank you, Carol. Next up is Katie Cloosen.
Hello, everyone. I'm Katie Cloosen. My daughter is a sophomore at Jones, and I also have prepared some statements. So I want to begin by thanking the Jones administration, teachers, and staff for the outstanding work that you are doing to educate our children under these extraordinary circumstances. Personally, my child continues to be challenged by her teachers and is setting goals for her future with her counselor, and for that, I am grateful. I also want to thank the LSC for their leadership as we continue to navigate this pandemic, and for the thoughtful reopening letter that you sent to CPS in the city last month. As someone who has lost a family member to COVID transmitted to him by his school-aged children, I appreciate the care and attention you are giving to the Jones community with your recommendation that remote learning continue for all students. I am pleased with how well the first half of the year has gone for my student, largely because of the academic and social and emotional benefits she has received from Eagle Day. I'm concerned and disappointed that Eagle Day has been restructured to meet CPS guidelines. And although the new Eagle Day plan seems to have thoroughly considered the academic and social and emotional needs of our students, I ask that it continue to be fine-tuned. Please ask our children, their teachers, and their parents what creative ideas they may have to help make Eagle Day better meet our kids' social and emotional learning needs. Gathering this information can also inform Jones and the larger CPS community as it seeks to lead in this area. With this in mind, I ask that the school and the LSC create a plan that improves social and emotional supports for students now during remote learning and once students are able to return to the school building. Thank you so much for your time.
Thanks, Katie. The next speaker is Julie Dworkin. And is Julie on there?
Hi, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yep, thanks.
Great. Thank you for allowing me to speak. My name is Julie Dworkin. I'm a mother of a sophomore at Jones, and I also have a 7th grader at Girt Elementary. I want to thank the teachers and the LSC for fighting for safer schools for everyone. As a result of the pushback, many of changes have been made that would otherwise not have been implemented. And I don't know why we would not all root for the safest return possible for all students and staff. I'm not sure when I'm going to be ready to send my elementary school student back to school, but I know that when I do, it's going to be much safer than had this advocacy not taken place. So I thank you. I also want to thank Dr. Powers for making Eagle Days as stress-free as possible. We really appreciate the plan that you've put in place, but students, I think, are not satisfied and would like to be able to have a full asynchronous day as we had before. And so we're continuing the fight. A group of parents met with Senthil Revolvery, the vice president of the board, who about a week ago, and he was very supportive of the idea of looking into the CPS policy and allowing for an asynchronous learning day. He wanted some more information about exactly who it was that communicated this policy and what the policy is. And so Dr. Powers, if you could help us fill in those blanks offline, that would be really helpful so we can get that information back to him. But he seemed really open to changing it. And so we've started a letter writing campaign about asking CPS to allow these asynchronous days. We've gotten about 400 letters in and would like to ask people to join. When I'm done speaking, I will place a link in the chat to the letter writing campaign. And hopefully, we've gotten a response from 18 different high schools so far. And hopefully we can circulate it and get more schools throughout the city to support it and, get our Eagle Days back the way they have been. So that's all. Thanks very much.
Thanks, Julie. And next is Dora Busey. See her on here. Hi, Dora.
Hey, hold on.
Great.
Okay, it's me. I just have a quick statement. I have a junior at Jones, and he's loved his experience so far. And I also want to say that I do appreciate the job that the teachers have done with remote learning in his case. And I even talked to them a little bit about their experiences during this time during the teacher conferences, and many of them expressed how they wish they could meet their students in person, which I think is kind of sad. So I'm glad that the pre-K through 8 have come to have formulated a plan to safely go back to school, but I'm hoping that there'll be at least some time that the high schoolers will be able to get back to school, especially the juniors, because as people have been saying, the screen time is a lot. They're in school, on the screen all day for classes. And then juniors are prepping for SATs and ACTs and are online for that. So it's just a ton of online time that I think is pretty detrimental to their learning and growth. That being said, I just wanted to know, the CDC has said they'll be finalizing guidance for school reopening, and I'm wondering if Jones will be committed to following that guidance.
Thanks, Dora. And okay, we'll have council members respond at the end. We have 2 more speakers, Mr. Mitchell, and then on deck, Mr. Slater. And I saw Mr. Mitchell.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yep.
All right. Good evening, everyone. My name is Eric Mitchell, and I come before you all this evening as a public servant for over 20 plus years. I'm an educator. I've been a teacher, an instructional coach, and a building administrator, and I currently work at Jones as an assistant principal. Using my lens as an experienced educator, I come before you this evening to speak on a few observations and concerns of the current LSC that I have made that have been weighing heavy on my mind and on my heart. In education, a phrase often used is, we're doing what we think is best for students. Teachers say it, administrators say it, and I believe I've heard this LSC say it. We all want what is best for all students. We all have the best intentions. But what some of us need to realize is that when we need to consider more than just our intentions, we must truly look at our impact. That is what I'm asking of you all this evening. Pause for a moment and look at your intentions for your impact. As a new LSC, you all have a plan and you have an agenda in which you proclaim transparency and accountability and opportunities for equity and voice from various stakeholders. However, your impact, in my opinion, thus far has been the opposite. So you all found ways to silence stakeholders you claim to represent. There's been public bashing of fellow community members who have different opinions than yours on social media, or by communicating out publicly on behalf of the Jones community without having conversations with the whole community. Just out of curiosity, how many stakeholders did you communicate with before you all sent correspondence about how Jones felt about the reopening plan for CPS? You all have bombarded various staff members with emails at all times of day as if everyone needs to be available for your needs and wants. You have caused a level of anxiety for many that just shouldn't be. You've come in questioning everything. Now, questioning everything in itself is not a problem. However, questioning things to find faults in them and then place blame is problematic. From my perspective, you are attempting to create a culture where everything in the school is trying to do is wrong, and you all are the people who are going to come in and fix it. Again, your intentions versus your impact. With this LSC, I'm seeing the lines blurred with supporting the work that the school is trying to do and taking over the school to promote your agenda. The most concerning thing in all of this is that you're taking advantage of people's emotions. There's been a rallying cry for change, and you have seized this opportunity to be the overseers of that change. These are emotional times. The events that have been going on nationally and locally have been polarizing and gut-wrenching. Many present today were present on July 14th. That was a tipping point here at Jones. It was an emotional and for some traumatizing experience. That day and several incidents leading up to that day have forced Jones to take a closer look at itself and realize that it needs to do better. I personally have met with several Black students and have heard their pleas. That stays with me every day. I personally have had to take a closer look in the mirror at myself and my role, and I have to do better. I'm asking you all to do the same. I'm asking you all to put down the magnifying glass you're using to scrutinize everything the school is trying to do to be better for our students, to create that inclusive space for all to be successful. Stop looking for ways to suggest that we're not doing some things for students or we're doing some things wrong. Instead, pick up a mirror and ask yourself, what am I doing to support the school in getting better? This transformational change we are all looking for shouldn't be about finger pointing or playing the blame game, nor should it be about a power struggle. LSCs do not run schools. They should work with the school and support their initiatives to improve the school. You all may claim that this is your intention. However, thus far, this has not been your impact. I'll leave you all with this quote from the great poet Maya Angelou. Do the best you can until you know better. Then when you know better, do better. Thank you for this opportunity to speak.
Thank you, Mr. Mitchell. Next up is Mr. Slater.
Well, good evening, everyone. This is Mr. Slater. I don't know how to follow something like that. But I'll just say that I'll start off by saying there are some really great students at Jones. There are some really great parents that at some points have definitely lifted my spirits, because at this present moment, I'm at the point of thinking that teaching while Black at Jones is very dangerous. And the reason I say that is because the impact of some parents and some students can really bring you down and cause some very stressful times, not only amongst Black teachers, and there's only 4 of us, but also with our families. That impact ripples with our families. So I'm just bringing this up because, like I said, I know there's some great students and some great parents, and I'm hoping that maybe you'll reach out to some of the other parents and other students so that it's not a situation where we as Black teachers are thinking, hey, teaching while Black is dangerous at Jones. We want to live a long life, longevity, but we know stress kills. And there's quite a few parents and students that have made it very stressful for us. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Slater. So council members, people have questions or comments, we can take up a little time for that before that concludes the public participation signups. So
could I say just something really quickly?
Yeah, go ahead.
I just wanted to say thank you to everyone who gave public comment, and I just kind of wanted to say, as the council member who created the motion to write the reopening letter and send it to the district about the reopening plan, and the first member to draft up that letter prior to edits from other LSC members, I just want to say thank you for your feedback, and I think you being here and being able to listen to your perspective on this issue, which is incredibly polemical, is really useful, and I'm just glad that we're all having this conversation. And I would just like to say that I think the tentative agreement between the teachers union and CPS, which may or may not pass, but is being voted on today, incorporates many of the things that our letter asked for. I think we all want schools, including Jones, to reopen safely. And that's why, I mean, in part, the Health and Safety Committee is taking up this issue of remote learning and trying to make the new Eagle Days as similar to the old Eagle Days as they were last semester. I just want to say again, thank you for offering a comment tonight.
Thanks, Rachel. I don't know if anyone else wants to say a few words. Okay.
Madam Chair, I think Member MacArthur had her hand up.
Okay, great. Go ahead, Latrice.
No, I just hit the wrong button accidentally.
I can see like 3 people unmuted, but one, oh, that one I think is Roberta's phone. And then, okay. So any other council members want to say anything for now? If not, I think we'll move on to our next item.
I'm sorry, I'd like to say something. I think before we move on, we need to make some sort of pledge to acknowledge everything that was just said. I feel like we're kind of skipping over it right now in a way that's not very respectful of what various community members have to say. So if we could at least make the verbal statement that we're going to come back to this at the end of the meeting, or that we're going to reply to it at a different time. I just don't want this to be kind of swept under the rug, because those were like very serious concerns that I think we need to address each individually.
And I was taking a moment to see. I just wanted to be clear, because about the letter that went out, that it was addressed from the entire LSC. I, as an LSC member, do not recall seeing a draft of this letter prior to it going out. And so I would just like to, in addressing the concerns of the parents, even as a parent, I was not aware of this prior to it going out. So I think those were valid points, and we need to make sure that if we are doing something on behalf of the LSC, that every LSC member has input into those decisions.
So I'm happy to take that. That letter we discussed at the very first organizational meeting. We had a lot of input from teachers speaking about reopening, and there was a discussion then whether we should have a special meeting or whether we should add it to the agenda on the 19th. So we added that to the agenda on the 19th, our first regular meeting. Rachel drafted a letter, which was then shared with the full council a couple days in advance. And I think it was linked publicly for most of that time too. It was on the agenda, with the agenda posted 48 hours before the meeting. And then we also had public participation before we voted on that. And then the letter actually passed unanimously with, I think, 12 of the 12 members at the time supporting it. So, I mean, we appreciate feedback. We really want people to come and talk to us. And that's why we have public participation at the beginning of the meeting, so you can weigh in on stuff that we are tackling during the meeting. So, yeah, I do think that everyone who's on the council at the time voted yes and had a chance to look at the letter and put some comments in it. So I think it's kind of the due diligence that all we can do. Our deliberations have to be public, so we can't do a lot of editing behind the scenes with more than whatever is a majority of a quorum. So
there's a comment in the chat I just wanted to address really quickly. So the first 2 meetings that we held on January 12th and January 19th, we were hoping that the public participation portion of those meetings could be a chance to hear from the Jones community, to get any input on the reopening. And so the letter that we wrote was based on the public participation at those meetings. And so that is the community response that I tried to incorporate into the letter. And so there were two opportunities for public participation. And so it was not the opinions just of the 12 people that are on this council, were on the council at the time, but was taken almost entirely from the comments at those two meetings.
Madam Chair, may I be recognized?
Go ahead, Roberto.
So, Member Boyd, I want to acknowledge what you said. I think you're absolutely right. And I appreciate you having us pause to address some of the comments, some of the public comments that were made today. So thank you for that. I do want to address my comments to the families who participated in the public participation. I want you to know that we didn't take this lightly. You know, the letter was drafted, we provided some feedback, and we wanted to be thoughtful in the approach. I'm sorry, I'm getting a bit of feedback here. Is that better? Okay, I'm sorry. So we wanted to be thoughtful in our approach. And part of that was to I think what most people said was to have a safe reopening for our teachers, especially our cluster program teachers who were coming back into the school. As a member, the first time I realized that the school was going to reopen was in January. I believe it was in January. I believe it was in January. Dr. Powers sent a school-wide email to talk about the cluster program reopening. And so it was important to have this public participation during our annual organization to have people to participate and to express their views, and for our teachers, especially our cluster program teachers, to talk about some of the things that they were concerned about. And we wanted to address that. In addition, to address some of the things that our families have mentioned about having an option to reopen the school in a safe manner, right? Where we're protecting the people that are educating our students, your students. And so I thought the letter was in my view, when I voted yes for the letter, I thought it was to address some of the safety concerns that we had, that we heard from our teachers, and we want the schools to reopen, because I absolutely agree that remote learning cannot replace in-person teaching, cannot replace those relationships that our students have with our educators, with our faculty and staff. So we wanted to be very mindful and thoughtful in our approach. And so I thought we had done that to express what we were hearing from the public participation on those 2 days. And we are doing what we do, at least in what I am trying to do, is to focus on the students' well-being. And I invite everyone to participate in this discussion, in this approach. And if I can do better, please tell me, and I am willing to be better. And I'm willing to work with anyone. And I'm willing to collaborate. And I'm willing to listen, so we can move forward, as I think Ms. Dealey said, together, right? So thank you. And Mr. Slater, I agree with you. We do need to reach out to other parents and families and do a better job of creating a more positive environment for everyone. And I appreciate, Mr. Slater, your participation and your involvement, because you have been one of those steadfast teachers. And I really, truly take to heart the things you say. So thank you.
Sarah's hand up. Sarah, you want to go?
Sure, I'll go quickly. If you're not speaking, if you could mute, I think that's part of the issue with the feedback. Just real quickly, especially the comment that I appreciate all the comments. I've been on a council. This is my 5th year being on councils, and I really appreciate all feedback, good and bad. The one that concerns me right now the most is the feedback from Mr. Mitchell, and so I would like to address him directly, and the whole community. But I think that I guess I'm reaching out to Mr. Mitchell. I think we should have a meeting with myself and Cassie, I'm the secretary, and we possibly could do a 3rd member or potentially Dr. Powers, and just kind of address all of these issues right away so that we don't that we can move forward and make progress. I also think that this council is very different than other councils because we started in January, and not only did we start in January, this is also when the reopening plan was happening. And so it's a very challenging time to onboard a group of new people who never see each other in person. So we never have these opportunities to form community in the way that we're traditionally used to forming community. And so I think that we do need to take a step back, and I will admit that. I'm fine with that. Take a step back, regroup, and meet with the administration. I mean, we've never really even had I've never even had a conversation with some of the administration one-on-one. So I think this is a good opportunity to move forward with that. And that's the end of my comment.
Any further comments from council members?
If we could just get a verbal confirmation from you, Madam Chair, that we're going to address each of these points properly in the future, whether that's at the end of this meeting or in writing later on.
So do you want us to like stop after each participation and have people like that deny it? Is that like a preferred format?
I'm asking that we just properly address each of the points. I think in writing would be better after this meeting. I think that obviously there's something that needs to be happening behind the scenes as far as like organization of the LSC and how we present ourselves to the community. Yeah, so verbal confirmation that that will happen is what I'm looking for before we move on. Sorry.
So I can do some of that individually, or like Sarah and I can, but we can't really, as a group, make a statement unless we all discuss it here. So I think the best thing for individual council members to do is if they have comments on the public participation that they want to do, ideally they should say them now. Second best, say them live at the next meeting. To the extent that I can address them as an individual council member, I will. And, you know, I definitely want to have a general, you know, people should be able to contact me. So I'm happy to hear from anyone, anytime. My email's on the website. And yeah, so we can't really discuss separately from this. That's the only difficulty. So I really encourage people to, if people would like a better format during public participation, where if you as a council member want to have a question or an individual response to a public participant, then we could switch to that kind of format. But if we're going to write formal responses as a group, those are going to have to come from the group is the only complication. So I'm happy to like reach out individually to people who spoke though and respond to them. So my one final comment before we move on.
Can I make a comment, please, Madam Chair? This is Roberto Mangivar. So I think what Member Boyd and Member Boyd, please correct me if I'm wrong here. What she's asking is that we address that we should be more welcoming, more inclusive, reach out to the community and let them know, be more transparent about the LSC meetings and some of the things that we're doing, making these things, some of the documents public, which we have already started doing by creating the shared drive. And I think a statement, Member Boyd, I am willing to work with you to draft up a thoughtful statement addressing some of the things that happened here so that we can present it to the LSC at the next monthly meeting. So, Member Boyd, I hear you. I agree with you that maybe we should have a thoughtful statement to acknowledge the parents who have spoke today.
Yeah, I mean, basically, public bodies need to advertise their meetings appropriately, share the agenda appropriately. We are also going the extra step in sharing as much of the documents that will be used in the meeting ahead of time as well. And we are gonna try to have an email like the one that went out this past week to say to people that the meetings are happening. And then as we have committee meetings, that's another way to get involved with the work of the LSC. And so those are also public bodies, and so they have the same procedures. So people should keep an eye out for announcements about committee meetings as well, and consider that. Just to respond to Mr. Mitchell's comments, you know, this is a partnership. The LSC works in partnership with the school leadership. I hope that everyone feels comfortable in approaching me and discussing any of this. We have to be comfortable with disagreement. We have to be comfortable with discomfort. That is how the public arena works. That's how, you know, democratic bodies are run. We get input, people disagree, we vote, and you know, sometimes we will not have unanimous votes, and we even agree as a council. So that, you know, those are the procedures, and we certainly, you know, everyone needs to work in partnership to steward the school, and our role as the LSC really is oversight over the things that we have as our legal duties, and to the extent that we can make recommendations and we can issue resolutions, we can take that opportunity to do those things too. And really one of our highest duties is to just ensure that we are creating a high quality learning environment here at Jones, and exercising our duties as the LSC to further that goal. And so, you know, I really encourage everyone to do their research on what LSCs can do and can't do, and really understand it, because it really is a very unique form of governance. And, you know, in the state of Illinois, Chicago is the only place that these exist. So, okay, I will not take any more time on that. If the speakers from the Black Coalition can either unmute or raise their hands, we'd love to move on to the next item, which is the statement that they issued. And Cole?
Hi, my name is Cole Francis. I am a junior at Jones, and I'm also the co-president of Black Leaders and Mentors Club at Jones. So we have 3 clubs within our Black Coalition: Black Leaders and Mentors, Black Student Union, and Natural Hair Club. So we decided to release a statement this month acknowledging the overarching experience that Black students feel at a lot of predominantly white institutions such as Jones. We really wanted to highlight a lot of the minor instances as well as the major instances that many of us have felt, experiencing things such as racial targeting, dismissal, microaggressions, and different things from our peers and teachers and administration alike. So if you take a look at the letter, it begins with a foreword written by myself that just highlights a lot of the experiences that I have had personally, but also many of my peers have had. And once this was released, a lot of the Jones community ended up sharing it, and it was widely spread, and many came to me saying, yes, this is exactly how I feel at predominantly white institutions like this school. And it doesn't shock me because I know what America is like, and I know what the experience would be, and I didn't expect anything less at Jones. Continuing on, we really just wanted to acknowledge that Black history isn't necessarily taught to its fullest extent, and it shouldn't be just restricted to 1 month each year. So we really just wanted to make sure that with this letter, we can make a statement and unify our voices and make sure that our peers know and other organizations know that we will not be silenced and this treatment can't go on any longer. So further, we decided to create some actionable steps, an expansion of the goals that Jones administration has taken to become a more anti-racist school, which we applaud them for doing. But we were lacking a lot of transparency with this and lacking a lot of knowledge about what is actually going on with this training. So as you can see with the first actionable step, we really just wanted to see more explanation of what the intention of the training is and see more updates, monthly updates. Mr. Mitchell was able to inform us about a lot of the ongoing process of these things and even informed us about the equity tab on the Jones website, which at the meeting, none of us were aware about. So that is really where the problem stems from. Later on, you can see some of the other actionable steps that we collaboratively worked on, including increasing that engagement with anti-racist lessons inside of our classrooms, because this is majorly affecting our students as well as the teachers. So we wanted to see these anti-racist lessons within social science classes, and we'd really like to participate in something like that and increase that engagement and collaborate with Jones administration in the future. We are also in developing an incident reporting forum platform. These details aren't really going to be released right now, but we are in collaboration with other prominent student-led organizations at Jones because we see a need for a platform like that where students can submit their experiences directly to the Jones administration and not be neglected. Similarly, like the Jones BIPOC page, which was neglected and called, I don't know the exact wording, but it was basically rejected and not taken seriously at all. And we really just wanted to be, to have these experiences really realized and apparent, because if you see a constant trend, especially not just within the school, but all a part of CPS and across the nation, there is definitely a problem. And I believe that if we take steps to further acknowledge these experiences and take action, then we can become a more inclusive school and show the progression that can happen with a school such as Jones. And finally, there's a statement that we want to be released just to demonstrate from the Jones administration that there's an active concern for engaging and developing the improved quality of experience for Black students. This just really means making the actual connection with us in prominent student organizations such as the Black Coalition, and this is one of the main reasons why we wanted to unify our voices and create a greater coalition such as this, and express the need for broadened history lessons and actual conversations with the Black students at Jones, because we haven't seen something like this before. So this is what the letter is mainly about. If you all had any questions or concerns or comments, feel free to let us know.
Thank you, Cole. Do you want to take any questions or comments in case anyone? So, council.
I have a question. I just want to say first, thank you, Cole. I'm wondering if the LSC or if all administration at Jones if there's something we could do with taking this, the Harvard implicit bias test, if that might be something, because I know the open letter advocates for students taking it, and I was wondering if that would be beneficial for the LSC and other administration to take that as well.
Yes, I believe that that should definitely be encouraged. We really didn't want to mandate a sort of a test like that because we're not sure what the restrictions are for things like that. But I do think that that is a very powerful thing to enact and a very important thing to realize so that we can constructively change some of those biases that are just sometimes learned and sometimes just developed over time, that we can really minimize those perceptions over time after we realize what they are.
Cole, this is member.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Madam Criswell, may I be acknowledged? Cole, this is member Roberto Manjavara. I just want to say thank you so much and thank the Jones Black Coalition for the courage for putting that statement together, being thoughtful and courageous and bold and direct. We need to hear these things from the students who experience this every day. And it hurts me to hear you say that this is the history of America, and it is true, and that you didn't expect anything different from Jones, and that hurts, right? That truly hurts, because I believe in your statement, in the statement from the Black students, you've earned your right at Jones, and you've earned all of the opportunities that Jones has to offer. And so I want to be able to amplify your voice so that the Black students at Jones feel that they truly belong at the school. And so when I saw the statement, it compelled me to ask the LSC to invite the Jones Black Coalition to present to this body. And my question for you, Cole, is what do you want from us, the local school council? How can we support you and your fellow peers?
Yes, so again, thank you for the invitation. We really appreciate it, and I'd like to hear from some of my other fellow leaders of the clubs, but I guess I can start off with just, we need accountability. I think that's the main goal of the statement. I think us being taken seriously and not being brushed off as the smallest population at Jones, which often it feels like it happens. I think that is a big part. So I think the main thing is just having conversations and having these discussions are important, and actually having actions that follow up with these discussions is also important. So looking at the letter, I believe if we can just fulfill some of these, if not all of the actionable steps, I think that would be very helpful to further our message and to further improve the Black experience at Jones. Because like I said, our post on social media had over 300 shares, and many of them were from Black students at Jones, Black students that had graduated from Jones, younger students at Jones. It's not shocking to me because these experiences become universal at one point when this is all that we're feeling and not being heard. And I applaud you all for inviting us, but I really just need you to hear us. I need you to align with us and listen to our message, because we won't be taken lightly. We can't be silenced anymore. These statements can't just come out after protests and unrest, it has to come out of true want and need to make our community more inclusive and diverse. So I think if any of the leaders want to also speak up, I think that would be great.
Yeah, that would be great. We have time for that now. Looking for anyone unmuting.
Hello. I can speak. I'm with Cole. My name is Ariane Drain, and I'm the vice president of Black Student Union, and I'm a part of the Black Coalition as well. And I just want to echo what Cole has been saying this whole time, and thank you, Cole, for taking the lead on that. And I see some concerns addressed in the chat about the incident reporting system, but I've also been notified that the Student Voice Committee has also been taking steps towards creating something like that. So if the LSC would even be willing to support SVC in that effort, that would be more helpful, like uplifting student voice rather than taking over. I think letting students take the reins on something like this is very powerful, and allowing students to create a system where it's beneficial for them, by them. So I think if that's what LSC will be helpful in doing, that would be awesome. And as far as other steps that LSC can take, it would also be just, like Cole said, listening, and not, putting up walls to be defensive about criticism and critiques that the LSC could do to improve. And I'll pass it to Rayleigh.
Hi, I would just love to say thank you again for inviting us to this meeting. My name is Rayleigh Montgomery, and I am the president of the Natural Hair Club and a member of the Black Coalition. And I think our main goal by writing this letter was to receive transparency on all fronts. And I think as Black students at Jones, we all really need to see actual steps made from statements that are put out, and not just words with empty promises. We need actions more than words. So yeah, I think that's what our main goal was. Thank you.
Thank you, Riley. And let's see, do we have other comments? I don't want to squelch if other council members want to respond. I think we can, like, if someone has a motion that they want to make on this statement, we can entertain that and then discuss that a little bit. It seems like addressing all of these demands could be done as something that the equity committee could take up and then examine what's already being done on, say, the bias incident reporting, and if the other like the curriculum, that is something that I think is of interest already and has been asked for by the teachers as well. But I am not the chair of that committee. Roberto, is that something that you guys could take on this month and make a plan? Oh, yeah.
Cool. So thank you for all of you who shared right now. I'm fairly new to the LSC as of like last month, but it sounds like these have been issues that are coming up, again, like, very similar to what has been said before, right? Like, we're living in really difficult times, like relationships haven't been built as they would have been built like prior to quarantine and COVID. So I guess I'm just like curious to hear from either anybody on administration on like, or even, I don't want to put like students on the spot again, but like what has been the block, right? Like it sounds like, and I've read the equity report, so it sounds like there's things happening already like via staff and administration, but there seems to be like some kind of stop in the middle of like what students are saying and coming to us time and time again, and then what is being done on the other end. So I'm just like curious as to like what that middle is, because it sounds like from an outsider, right, looking in, like everything's being like, T's are getting crossed, I's are getting dotted, but there's something like, I don't know, in the middle.
Dr. Caswell, if I can add something here.
Oops, I'm on mute. Yes, go ahead, Dr. Powers.
Yes, I just wanted to, again, thank Cole and the others who presented this and the information that they shared with us and their perspectives. These are all things that we are working with through the framework that we established beginning in the fall. Mr. Mitchell has been tremendously instrumental in helping that move forward, and he'll be reporting more on that this evening when it comes to his report in the next segment of the meeting. I just want the students to understand and everyone else to understand that these are things that we hear, they're things we take seriously, and there's some of these things will take us some time. For example, the idea of the reporting platform is a wonderful idea. It's something we've been discussing for a long time, but it does require some legal clearances, and it's something that we're investigating through the legal department, through CPS, because of issues involving confidentiality, privacy, and so forth. Those are all issues that are a bit above our pay grade as far as fully understanding and making sure that it's something that is effective and yet at the same time protects the rights and privacy of individuals. That's just one example. We're beginning the process, and within our curriculum, we're going to be doing more and more with this with regard to culturally responsive curricula. It's something that I feel very strongly about, having been a history teacher and been involved with trying to tell the entire story of our country, just as an example. So these are all things that are at play now. And again, Mr. Mitchell, in his report, will give you a little bit more of an overview. We have put much of this up on the website, on the information that is available there, and we will continue to do so. As far as making sure that people understand how much we do support our students, how much we want to make sure that your voices are heard, and that it is done in such a way that people really do feel like they have a say-so in what is going on in the school. And we really do appreciate that. But a lot of this is in process, as so many things are. They do take time, and there are many different conflicting demands on our time. And this is one of the major things that we are devoting our time to. I don't know if Mr. Mitchell wanted to add anything to that or not at this point, especially since his report's coming up short.
I will just add the last thing I will say is that, Cole, we do take everything that you all have said very seriously as it relates to, comments and things about the BIPOC page. To Dr. Power's point, there are some legal aspects that we just were not able to share because we did take it seriously. The district took that seriously. And, each and every one of those statements and comments that were made on the Instagram page have been looked at, very closely. And in some instances, some investigations have been taking place. So I apologize if if that was not made clear to you, or if it appeared as if, we blew that off. But actually, the things that came from that, the demands that students requested, just the feelings and the emotions from all of that is what has driven us to create the plan of action at the start of this school year. And we've been chipping away. And so, we will continuously try to share out as much as we can what we're doing, when we're doing it, how we're doing it. We have a training session for the teachers tomorrow. And, shortly thereafter, the synopsis of what happened at that session and the materials will be made available to everybody. It'll be on the website, so those are the ways in which we're trying to be transparent. As far as actionable things with that training, at this point in time, the first few sessions are really about building foundation and shared understanding because kind of like what I said earlier this evening, many of us have to kind of take a look at ourselves in the mirror and see where we are in all of this before we can make the change that we need to. And then there will be some actionable steps that we can model and show and demonstrate. But in the meantime, we're going to continue to try to listen to you all, whether it's in small groups like we did the other day. I thought that was a very powerful conversation that we had prior to you all sending out the letter. We were in support of that. So yeah, I just wanted to leave you with all of that, and the rest of that will come out in my equity report.
Madam Chair, this is Member Menjivar. I just want to acknowledge the work that Dr. Powers and Assistant Principal Mitchell have done. They are pushing this, and it's because of students of our Jones Black students. You've pushed the demands, and I think Dr. Powers and Mr. Mitchell are responding to it, right? They have invested in the data squared and the anti-racism work. They have invested, if my understanding, in the Makaiba challenge. They have invested in the alternatives, but this is because of the students' voice. They are advocating for this. And I want to acknowledge Cole and your fellow leaders, right? And I apologize for mispronouncing your name, Ryan and Rayon, Riley and Rayon. I'm so sorry. I appreciate their leadership, and you must continue to demand more from us to be better, as Mr. Mitchell mentioned in his earlier remarks during the public participation. And it's because of your presence, right? Your presence is that we're making these changes, and that our administrative leadership, they're listening and they're trying to take those actions. And we're going to be aggressive in this approach. So I would love to collaborate with you and to try to move this further, because as one of your leaders said, statements only take you a certain way, right? A certain step. It's now actions that we need to take to make sure that you and your fellow students and the students of color have the best experience at Jones College Prep. So thank you for your advocacy. Thank you for demanding more from us.
If Ariane can, I think she had her hand raised and wanted to respond, and then Denaya will be next on the stack.
Yeah, hi, my name is Ariane. Again, I'm a senior at Jones. And I just wanted to address the initial question about what was the block that was happening between seeing change and actually advocating for it. And from my experience, because I transferred to Jones my sophomore year, and I'm currently a senior that's going to school during the pandemic and applying to college. So for me and my advocacy work, even I've worked with MICVA action team and whatever outside of Jones and a lot of other initiatives to try to make change within my school. But it just seems like this is the very first time that schools have been actually had to address racism in a very real way that has never been done before. And while I applaud the approach that they have been taking to make change, it just seems like a lot of us are still trying to figure things out because we have never had to do it this way, where everyone is looking at you so closely. Because yes, like a lot of students, many students have been trying to make this work happen for so long, and it has not been taken as seriously as it is right now. So it seems like we haven't been moving, but it's really just because we're just starting to open up Pandora's box. So it's like we can't see change happening in 2 days. Oh, thank you, whoever typed that. We can't see change happen in 2 days, but I think a lot of students are just very tired and exhaustive trying to make our voices heard. Like we had this listening session over the summer, but it seems like, everybody that said what they said at that meeting has already said it many times. And it's like, you have to take the steps to see the change that you want to see. Like, this is just not enough. You can't ask us to come to you. You also have to take initiatives to go hear what these students are saying on the day-to-day basis in their meetings to their teachers. And it's not enough, it's just not enough to happen in overnight. And for the administration to have time to inform teachers of their implicit biases and things like that. They can't flip that switch of having implicit bias to being anti-racist teacher in 2 days. So I don't expect my teachers to change how they have been teaching the past 20, 30 years overnight. So I appreciate the steps, but it just seems like we haven't been moving because we're just starting to make the effort to move.
Thank you. Also, congratulations. The Posse Scholarship it's amazing. So
thank you.
And then Denaya, you had your hand up as well.
Yes. So the first thing I wanted to say is that I think this tends to happen a lot in LSC meetings from both sides, whether it be admin or LSC members. But I think that we need to take accountability straight to the face and not sugarcoat and not make excuses for the things that we do. and I hope that we can maintain that standard throughout the rest of the meeting. If somebody has a critique for a member of the LSC or for a member of the administration, I again ask that we do not sweep it under the rug. But just as Ariane said, I'd like to hear a response from Dr. Powers on the original question that Violetta asked about what has been the disconnect. I think we understand that there are things that can be done immediately. Like Ariane said, we understand that a teacher can't change their ways in 2 days. But like someone else just brought up, this isn't something that has happened this month or this year or in the past 3 school years. We had alumni from 2013 come to the meeting last summer and tell us that they have been having these exact same demands since they were in high school. So I don't think that we can use the excuse that things are going to take a little bit of time, especially considering how long certain members of the administration and of staff have been here, and people have been experiencing the exact same things and worse. So if we could, I'd like to go back to Dr. Powers to hear an answer to what has been the disconnect, how long these efforts are going to take once they've been put into place, but what has been the disconnect? Why hasn't it happened already in the past decade and more?
Just very, very briefly to respond to that, and thank you, Denaya. I don't know that there's been a true disconnect so much as we sometimes lose track of things. And if issues do not get surfaced, such as they have been over the past year or more, then sometimes we lose our focus on some of those things. And that, I think, is the fault of everyone. If it's not on the front burner, so to speak, you sometimes have other things take up that time and take up that space in terms of what you have to do on your day-to-day tasks. During the past really 6, 8, 10 months, this has been something that we have focused on a great deal, making, I think, tremendous progress on a very broad front. It takes planning, it takes deliberate effort, and for anything that was not accomplished in the past, it is time to make up for lost time, I guess you might say. And that's where we are right now. The efforts being made now by, certainly by not just the school administration, but many members of our faculty and staff, parents, and members of the LSC, Friends of Jones, and so forth, are a true commitment to making this work and getting this work accomplished. It will continue to take time, but it is moving, and it's moving forward, and it's moving inexorably. So any things that were not done in the past, that is now the past. This is the present, and we're looking toward the future to make sure that these kinds of things are no longer the issues that motivate everything that goes on in our school. Instead, that we can get to a point where we can be very proud completely of where we are and meeting the needs of every one of our students. That may not answer all the questions involved, but at the same time, that's where we are at this moment, and we're continuing to move forward.
Madam Chair, I'd like to speak. This is Ms. Bugs.
Ms. Bugs.
So, first of all, to the Black Coalition, I appreciate your steadfastness with this issue because it is an issue. I want to just acknowledge one of the things that Cole mentioned about it being the smallest population. I think we have to be careful not to let that allow it to be ignored or not remain a priority. I think that it will be important to have monthly action steps that have a direct student impact. I think that would help some of what we continue to hear from them because there is work taking place, but I think part of the disconnect is that it's not reaching the students. And one way to address that could be to have a regular cadence of student collaboration, monthly, bi-weekly on the ILT, however you can go about doing it that way. They're able to collaborate and hear, share, express along the way so that it's not this buildup. And then I'll say again that the monthly progress and action steps upon reviewing, and I know Mr. Mitchell is going to talk about his report when I looked at it, and I think it's great work, but one of the things that I would like to see is action steps, because when you do professional development, professional learning, what makes it most impact, even on that day, is that there's something applicable that you can go back and implement right away. So I would like to see, I think that would be helpful so that the students are seeing some traction, that they are part of the process in terms of collaborating, and truly a priority, and the transparency that would help with the whole part of what they're saying. Thank you.
Thanks. We have 2 more hands up. Or I think Mr. Mitchell, your hand was up.
I'll save my response to respect time, because we still have reports to get through and everything else. So I will reserve my comments for another point in time.
Okay. And Latrice?
I would just like to acknowledge that Danaya has said several times, and Ariane also typed it into the chat about addressing harms that they feel have been made by LSC members, and I would like to give them time to address that.
I'm sorry, I'm not sure what you mean. To address the swept under the rug comments? I hate to keep this dragging. Yeah.
I'm sorry, and you mentioned about critiquing LSC members, and I saw that Ariane had said something about harm by LSC members, and I think that's important for us to be aware of going forward.
Yeah, sorry if you hear anything in the background. I think me and Ariane share the same idea that I understand that this is stressful right now, and I understand that a lot of people are being called out for different things, but I think that trying to save face, right? Like trying to say, well, this happened, but we did do this, right? Like, again, this is dragging on and on. I've said this already. But that just kind of entrenches that harm, right? That is like quite, to be honest, Dr. Power is saying, oh, sometimes, we just kind of forgot about it when students are being slurred in the hallway, right? I think that those kinds of comments are what, bring about more harm. When you're saying to, meet of Black students who just gave a very heartfelt explanation of a letter that they wrote about their experience at a school. So I think just comments like that, I really don't want to drag this on. I think that obviously there needs to be some regrouping, and I don't want any more comments to be made out of emotion from anybody. But I think this is definitely something that we need to keep in mind moving forward.
So thank you all.
Madam Chair.
Go ahead, Dr. Powers.
Just very briefly, Danaya, I did not mean that is something we just forgot. When there are so many things going on in a school, sometimes things get overlooked and they should not get overlooked. Whenever we have had, and again, this goes back many years, whenever we have had any issues that have been brought to our attention that we are aware of, we have acted on them. We have done everything that we can to rectify any harm that has been done to anyone and follow the policies and rules that fall under the Student Code of Conduct. So this is something that has been ongoing, but we are at that stage and have been now for some time where we need a much broader, much deeper, and much more concerted effort. So if you took my earlier words as meaning we just forgot about it, that was not my intent.
Thanks, Dr. Powers. I do think I would like, as an LSC, to make sure that we're monitoring these demands and what's being done on them specifically. And if this is something that the Equity Committee could take up, I think that would be helpful, especially given that there was also, there's been requests by the teachers a year ago that there were demands made in the summer. And then there's also the plans of the Equity Committee. So really seeing all of this together and, I think especially having some timeline and dates attached to things would be helpful. And so if this is something that the Equity Committee is willing to take up, I think would be great. And the next place would be monitored.
Madam Chair, this is Member Menjivar. So as of right now, I'm the sole chair, which I'll address at my portion of the committee. But absolutely, I would absolutely think that the Equity Committee should take up this these issues and really raise them, and try to amplify the student voice and work with the other partners, with every partner that we have inside the school. With Dr. Powers, I know Mr. Mitchell has done an enormous amount of work of trying to push these solutions. So I want to be a partner of this. But that is my goal, is to be a partner and to be a force for our students. Everything I do in my life, in my family's life, in this school community, in the school communities that I've been a part of, has been to elevate students and their opportunities. So I don't know if it requires a motion. We have not had our first meeting, which I'll address again at the committee. But we need to set up our own organizational meeting where I'm inviting parents, community members. I extended what I felt was a friendly invitation to Mr. Mitchell. And so I want to be a partner with everyone, and to really move this as quickly as possible, and to use Dr. Powers' word, deliberately, right? To be intentional. And it does require planning, and it does require stakeholders, especially our students, to tell us what they need and how we can meet those needs.
Thanks, Sarah.
Oh, just real quickly, I think I think that is a good suggestion, Cassie, to move forward. But I would like to hear from Mr. Mitchell. His report is next. I don't think at this time in the meeting we're able to say that we want to take X actionable goal. I think we need to hear from Mr. Mitchell. I'd like to hear his recommendations.
Well, is there an ability to pull up the report? Because I did submit it, and I'm not in a place where I can read it.
Yes, yeah, Troy can do that. Troy will bring it up. Thank you.
So it is in the public folder, so people have had access to it. I'm just going to address some of the updates. Just as in every other meeting, I've tried to couch the updates based upon the priorities that we've established that have been our guiding principles. People have kind of talked about those principles or those priorities throughout the course of this meeting. So we have been addressing, all of these things. To Denai's point, and to others who have said this, people need to see more, and that is definitely understood. I do want to take this opportunity before I start my report to just, put it out there. I don't know that it's been said formally, it's been informed, or it's been implied, and but at the end of the day, we're sorry. This needed to be addressed in a different way, probably faster. Some of this is systemic, some of this is individual issue, but at the end of the day, the things that we have in place from a district perspective, Dr. Powers mentioned the student code of conduct. So for many instances, those things have occurred and we address those instances. However, what the code of conduct doesn't do is address the person who's been harmed. And that's where we as an administration has kind of failed you all, is that we have not been successful in addressing the harm. And that's what we have definitely tried to be better about as we've moved forward. But when you're trying to address harm, it's hard to do something immediate. That it takes some time to be able to show, those things. And that is what we are working on. So I definitely want to, put that out there and say that, and own that. And that is the work that we're doing. And, we have a lot of people who are trying to, who want a lot of things, and we are an administrative team of 4. Now, I heard Mr. Menjivar say, the equity team wants to work with us, and he mentioned an invitation, that he put out, and but to be clear, what could have happened and what should have happened is the question should have been, Mr. Mitchell, how can we help you, with what you are already doing, because there are these things that are in place. So I did want to address that very quickly since I have the floor. But with the equity report that I plan to share out, it is couched in the 4 priorities, which are about the anti-racist training and what we hope to gain from that, our goals from that. Culturally responsive teaching and instruction, so that to that point that addresses some of the things that Cole is speaking to and the Black Coalition is speaking to. Our 3rd priority is trying to improve student voice. And one of the things specifically was kind of revamping and supporting the Student Voice Committee. And those things have been happening. And the last point, which kind of speaks to what Mr. Slater was referring to, and again, there's conversation about how we need to best do that, which is the hiring practices of teachers of color and the retention. And that's definitely something that is of importance, and we better and do some actionable things on. And so that is kind of the report. As far as updates for January, we just had our first anti-racist training with Davis Consulting. And, it was overall a positive experience. Much of the feedback from staff was encouraging. They appreciated the way in which things were brought to the table. But as I said earlier, these first few sessions are really about getting people to be reflective and being uncomfortable in their own skin so that they can make the changes within themselves, which in turn will allow them to make the changes to support our students. So, it is something that's going to take a little bit of time. To the second point, and I'm giving my report right now off the top of my head. I don't have the material in front of me, so forgive me if I miss a point. As it relates to Troy, can you pull up the report?
It's pulled up. Priority 2 is the instruction.
Okay. I'm on my cell phone, so I can't see the report. So I apologize.
That's okay.
Really,
Just let us know if you want us to read the priority real quick.
Well, if you, in the interest of time, just read the portion that says update, because the priorities are there for explanation purposes, so people know what we're working towards. And, the updates are the progress that we have made as it relates to that particular point. And, so we're making slow and steady progress, but I do believe we are making some. So priority 2, like I said, is around culturally responsive instruction. There's not work that we're doing collectively as a school, because when we address this at the beginning of the school year, trying to do too much at one time means that nothing gets done very well. So teachers wanted more professional development around that, so we were going to look at those opportunities. In the interim, though, to our teachers' credit, they are, finding ways to move in that direction. There are some departments that are looking at equity and assessment. We have some that are doing book clubs around culturally responsive teaching in the brain. So we have teachers who are taking that extra step to, build their content knowledge. And, we are definitely supporting them in those ventures. And collectively, something that works for priority 2 and priority 3 is our work with the equal opportunity schools. The students took a survey back in December, and we're anxiously waiting to get those results in the presentation. And what we're going to do with that information is figure out how we can improve opportunity and access. Now, equal opportunity schools does focus more so on AP, but it is about improving the rigor and instruction. And so, we plan on using that to just improve our overall instruction and use that information to help support to guide the way that we're going to move forward in that regard. So I think that's my report in a nutshell. If I'm missing something specific, Dr. Powers, would you mind jumping in for me?
No, I think it covers it quite well. And again, we want to make sure that there's several times people have commented that they don't know what's going on, they don't know what's happening, they don't know what the steps are and so forth. And that is on us to make sure we communicate that through whatever means necessary, particularly through our website. So we will continue to do that so that people can see, and we are operating in as transparent a manner as possible.
Thanks. Thanks, Mr. Mitchell. And I will use this as an opportunity to remind council members that we're trying to make all of these reports available ahead of time. So, it's definitely not on you to reconstruct the report from memory. And a brief summary is great. So do council members have some questions? on this report from Mr. Mitchell? I think I have my, Ellen, go ahead.
Thank you. And Mr. Mitchell, thank you for acknowledging the harm that our systemic institutions have caused to our students. I really appreciate that you started off by acknowledging that harm and recognizing that we haven't fully addressed it as a school so far. I had a quick question because the help desk / bias incident reporting form was mentioned in a couple of places. So I think Cole had brought that up, and then it's in the report that you submitted as well. I know you've been in conversations with the Student Voice Committee as well about this, and I was curious about whether this was going to be in combination with the youth alternatives work, whether those students who are receiving that training would be responding to incidents, or I guess I saw them next to each other in the report, so I was wondering if there's a connection between those two. Thanks.
There's not a direct connection. I mean, I guess undoubtedly the work that Alternatives does may kind of play a role in that, but you know, they're not directly in line with each other. What ended up happening is the work that the Student Voice Committee is doing. You know, it's like we met and we discussed you know, this plan, and we got to a certain point, and you know, we're almost done with the development of that form. Now the Youth Alternatives programming is really built as an opportunity for students to have a say-so once an incident occurs. Sometimes that incident may actually go through this peer conferencing program as a first step and maybe a final step, depending on, you know, the circumstances of said incident. So it gives students an opportunity to have some say-so as it relates to some disciplinary actions, because that's also something that has not always been made clear. And you know, so it's an opportunity to begin addressing the person who has been harmed versus the consequences that are always provided to the person who does the harming. So this is our first steps, you know, in terms of restorative practices that really involve students.
Any other council members want to here? Go ahead.
Madam Chair, this is Member Roberto Manchavar. Mr. Mitchell, thank you so much for your monthly equity report. I wanted to ask you about the equal opportunity schools. I had sent an email to Dr. Powers and the LSC members about the breakdown in the National Merit recipients. And I got some of that information regarding the demographics. And it seems like, as I mentioned in my response, that there is a need to support our students to get access to these AP classes and SATs and ACT and support them in their success. And I know you mentioned, Mr. Mitchell, that you're assessing the results from the survey. What is the time frame for equal opportunity schools to come back with some actionable steps to help our students?
So the equal opportunity schools will not come back with the actionable steps. That's for us to determine. One of the next things that we have to do is the development of an equity team. So EOS will present the information to the equity team, which will then use that information to develop the next steps as a school. The equity team initially will consist of teachers, counselors, and administrators. But eventually, because this is not just a one and done program, this is over the course of 2 to 3 years, will include student voice and parent and community involvement as well.
And do you have a sense of like when that equity team will be fully formalized?
So we're hoping to meet with with EOS before the month of February is over. So the initial equity team should be formed before then. So by the next LSC meeting, should be able to identify to you all who are the members of that equity team. And you know, after we have that presentation with EOS, we can give you a little more insight. Because at this point in time, I do not know how that information can be shared and when we will be able to share it.
Thank you so much.
Any more questions for Mr. Mitchell?
Yes. I'd like to be recognized. So in reviewing the report, it mentioned that for priority one, that you're going to have an equity audit. And I was just wondering whether or not the consultants did the audit, and if so, what were the findings?
No, the equity audit is actually scheduled for the fall. As I mentioned before, the first 6 sessions are really about capacity building for the staff and coming to some shared understanding about how we've gotten to this point. You know, everyone wants to work on dismantling, you know, white supremacy and that culture. Well, you gotta all have the firm understanding of what that is, right? And where you sit in that. And so that's the process that we're going through initially. By the fall, we will have that audit, and we will be looking at some more strategies on how to successfully do all that. So that's kind of where we are, and that's the timeline for that. If
Thank
you
you
look
so much.
at the no problem, Ms. Bugs. If you want to know, if you look at the PD topics, it gives you a timeline of at least the information that we'll be reviewing over the next 6 sessions. And like I said, that audit will occur in the fall, and we'll clearly keep you guys in the loop about when that will be, because I want to say there is a stakeholder community aspect. So, you know, we'll have to collect information from everyone.
I appreciate the clarity. When I saw fall, I was thinking fall 2020. So I thought it was something that you all started in the fall. So thanks for clarifying that.
Any others? If not, I have a sort of question/request. I think it might be really helpful for the whole council if we could see the full, I don't know if there's like the response to the request for proposal that Davis Squared put together, or their work plan, just so we have an idea of what else, like what all the components are, the PD, and then this equity audit, and like, you know, what timeline they put on it. I think that would be very helpful for us, knowing what's happening on that. And I think the same thing for the Alternatives Inc., to the extent that there's some sort of documentation or, you know, work plan, that would be helpful if they provided that for the school. So if you could circulate that to the LSC, I would love to have that, just so that we know that, like, for example, with this equity audit that's coming up and it's time for this. And so we're wondering if there's, you know, will the, just the different components that we expect Davis Squared to cover. If there's people calling for stuff and we don't know where that is, I think I would appreciate that.
Sorry, I just put in the chat, I think Mr. Mitchell had linked this in his equity report. This is like the topic, like list and timeline. So this is what was shared with teaching staff as well. So I think that's in the report. I'm not sure if that's what you were asking for.
I think there must be something a bit bigger than that, because so that's like one component of what Davis Squared is planning to do, but sort of the full picture of what they are planning to do for, I think it's like $65,000. So kind of you know, whatever timeline or map or whatever they provided would be really helpful. I don't think there was like a formal bidding process, so there's not like their response to an RFP, but along those lines, like whatever this.
I can pull something together to share with, you know, I think I can find the rest of the pieces of what you're asking for. To Ellen's point, that is a lot of what was demonstrated, but you know, some of the details as it relates to the equity audit, like what that makes up, you know, when you know, get those services, what does an equity audit look like? I can, you know, share that with you all. That seems to be what you're asking about.
Yes, I think there were questions like, will it cover looking at the full curriculum or whatever, and I think the answer to that is no, but there's probably other questions like that that the documentation could cover for us. Okay, I think we'll wrap that item up. Next is the counseling department report. Mr. Coleman is here, and take it away, Mr. Coleman.
All right, good evening. Can you hear me? All right, I preface this that if any time I start sounding like RoboCop, please let me know. I will log out, come back in, and we'll work something out. All right, and Councilmember Hilbrunds, if you will pull up the counseling report, I would greatly appreciate it. All right, and can I get some thumbs up if folks can see it? I see thumbs. Excellent. Thank you. All right. So first, I want to preface my report. I do think there is some confusion on specifically what I would be covering tonight. I know that Dr. Powers has asked me to speak on college enrollment and senior support, so I shall. I also know there were questions I heard from Councilmember Ma and Chairperson Cresswell about concerns regarding a social emotional plan for the school. I see that later in the agenda. I can speak to counseling's role in that and counseling specifically while I have this section. So if there are questions for counseling specifically, please feel free to ask near the end. I will say, in terms of intent versus impact, I felt a little triangulated in preparation for this meeting, trying to decipher what exactly am I here to speak out on, but I digress. So for counseling, the first piece of my report goes specifically into the class of 2020. 92% of the students plan to enroll in college, 89% based on the National Clearinghouse data that has been provided to us at the district level. Let us know that students did matriculate, but I will always highlight whenever we're talking about the National Clearinghouse data, there are always students that will get left out based on name changes, and some schools don't report that, that data with the same consistency. But in terms of our overall picture of the class, very consistent with where we have been in years past in terms of our college matriculation. You can see a breakdown of the percent that stayed in Illinois and the percent that went to private school. I will say for at least the last 4 years, it's been relatively consistent that about half of our population will stay in Illinois, and somewhere between 38%, as is true for our last class, up to about 45% will go to private school. I've listed the top 5 schools that students go to. That has not changed for at least the last 3 to 4 years. It is worth noting, because it will come up later, that the class of 2020 self-reported $30.5 million in scholarship offers, which is wonderful. It is important to note, though, that's about 20 million below what we had for the class of 2019. So part of the measures that we are putting in place for this current class, the class of 2021, around how do we successfully incentivize us getting that information in a remote environment. As you can imagine, for a lot of reasons, it's been much more difficult to get that reporting from students, but I'll talk about that in a second. The broader piece around senior supports over the next page and a half, I sort of break down bit by bit what we're doing for our seniors, primarily in terms of our tier 1 intervention that all seniors are receiving. We've had 2 senior seminars thus far talking about financial aid and the post-secondary planning process, but also coming to a little bit of that social emotional piece. The counseling theme for this year around social emotional learning has been around self-care and holistic wellness. How do we understand holistic wellness? Are we setting a clear self-care goals? And do we have the support from counseling, your counselor, to help you progress monitor that throughout the year? So that's been a theme in each of the lessons that we've done thus far with our seniors, and most recently in January, self-care and coping came around as you're navigating the post-secondary process and starting to get decisions. How are you coping with that? How can you still maintain a strong sense of self while also getting a mix of information, some of it being exciting, like Posse, for example, or getting to the school of your dreams, and some of it maybe being particularly difficult. Council Member Hilbrand, you're moving too quick for me. Can you slow down a little bit? I appreciate it. Also, I think, especially when we're thinking in the context of equity and the conversations that have been happening, not only in the LSC space, but also the internal conversations that have been happening with our staff, and more specifically with the counseling team. I know that it's been a moving target in terms of when we're pushing out content. Is that content exclusively in English? And that's a problem when a quarter of our population doesn't have English as their primary language at home. So I've been working on making sure we can have our information go out in Spanish as well, as the second most popular language in our school population, and continue to look at options for other languages, such as Mandarin, Cantonese, Polish as well. We don't have an answer to that, but that is certainly one of the questions that we are asking and looking to move forward on. I think it's important to note when it comes to some of the strategic partnerships, we've had a successful relationship with Minority Leaders of Impact that has led to programming where we've been able to speak primarily to a population that was primarily BIPOC about the college planning process. We had students from sophomore year through senior year attend, and it was one of the first times, the first time in the last 7 years at Jones that we have partnered directly with the student club around putting out targeted programming. And based on the success of that partnership, we're looking to do other partnerships. The next one being with MLI around self-care and with BSU around facilitating conversations between students and staff later this month. We had our Admissions Palooza event where we made sure we had the opportunity for 22 of the most popular colleges that students apply to. We made sure that there were virtual visits available for students during the month of October. We also had our first, I don't have enough water to talk this fast, excuse me. We had our first alumni panel in December of the year where we had a really diverse representation of alumni from a few different classes, students at public schools, private schools, a diverse group racially, ethnically, socioeconomically, and talking about a variety of pathways, not just college. We had a few folks gap year and military as well. If you'll scroll down for me, Councilman Hilbrands, Councilperson Hilbrands, I suppose. Okay, so as we are moving forward, some of the big other pieces, scholarships, we do try to push out our monthly scholarship blast to students and families. We do recognize that very recently we had a blast that went out with like a turnaround time of a few days. That was brought to our attention. That was absolutely to the error of the counseling team. We received that feedback well and are looking to make sure we streamline our process in a more consistent way moving forward. And then there's some stats available on where we are in terms of the application process for our current class. We're above the district goal for right now. We're about 80%. That's about 10% above where the district would like us to be. And we're continuing to path towards the end of the year. I did want to highlight in terms of that incentivization. I don't know if that's the word I like, but incentivizing specifically, how can we make sure in a remote climate, since we are currently remote and are not sure if we will be in some sort of hybrid or live format by the end of the year with our seniors. There's some big things that counseling wants to make sure we work on with our students. We will have one-on-ones with all seniors in the spring as they are finalizing their plan and planning for the future. We will have another seminar at the end of the year about post-secondary transitioning, what that looks like, what supports are necessary, and we partner with the Illinois Student Assistance Commission to make that happen. And then we want to be very clear on where are your final transcript requests going? We need that information, making sure we have student financial aid award letters because we do track the offers that they've received, and making sure we have a clear sense of their plan, which is now, as it was last year, a graduation requirement. As part of the CPS Learn, Plan, Succeed initiative, also new this year, as is referenced in the report, students, we need proof of FAFSA completion or the alternative app for Illinois Aid. And if families are not doing that for whatever reason, they have to submit a waiver because that is also required for graduation. I think I spoke relatively quickly there. Oh, and then when it comes to how we're setting up the incentives for later in the year, the counseling, this is something that we are partnering with FOJ to make happen. Counseling will be raffling, assuming that students are able to give us all of that information near the end of the year and make sure they finalize their plan and we have all the evidence and we have their scholarship award letters and we know what's going on. They will go into a raffle for one of 2 MacBooks. We'll also be giving out swag bags from FOJ and some gift certificates. It's the first year that we've used this model, and we'll be able to award students for doing the appropriate steps to close out the year and set themselves up for their post-secondary plan. And we'll be able to do that for approximately 37 students. And that's something that we're piloting this year to see if it works, and we'll let you know how that goes. But that's specific to post-secondary planning, class of 2020, and where we are for class of 2021. And there, I tried to put as much detail while also being succinct in that report, so feel free to take a look. And if there are any questions for me on any topic, let's go.
Thank you, Mr. Coleman. Sarah has her hand up. Go ahead, Sarah.
No, actually, it was just Jacqueline's comment in the chat. Is it possible to get the college enrollment data deaggregated by race and ethnicity? I'm not sure if you have that data, Mr. Coleman.
Yes. So there is the information breakdown for with the clearinghouse data. Yes, that can be done. I probably highlight this in a second. I'm very concerned around how information is shared in a public space. So I will want to work with Dr. Powers and make sure that we're on the same page about what is appropriate and legal to share in this space. But yes, I can get a breakdown of trends in terms of what students have done. For example, individual students of the class of 2020, for example, that isn't as easy to come by with the clearinghouse data, but not impossible. And like in terms of equity and access, that's a great question. So we are an ISP school. I'm not sure if everybody understands what that is, but like an independent school program where we don't necessarily have direct lines to the district teams that support some of the work, particularly around post-secondary planning. I recently developed a relationship with a district partner on that front to help sort of get into that data and tease out some of these pieces, because historically we have not been able to do so, but I also see the need. So I absolutely echo that comment in the chat.
Okay. Any other questions for Mr. Coleman?
Mr. Manjavar, or Council Member Manjavar, I believe.
As Madam Chair, as Member Manjavar.
Member Manjavar.
So to the last comment that Ms. Jacqueline Smith, I believe, made, I think that would be helpful to get that type of data about the race and ethnicity, the breakdown and where those students are going. If we're talking about equity, we want to see how they're being supported at school to actually get into their top choices, right? So if we think that our students, I guess what I'm trying to say is it would be helpful to know how our students are being steered. So if there's a certain demographic that are going to top colleges and not others, we want to address that. Why is that happening? So having that breakdown for me would be helpful to understand a little bit more of like where our Black, Brown, Asian, Caucasian, and multi-race students are going, and whether there's any sort of I guess bias in how we're supporting those students who maybe want to get into a top college and they're not getting in, right? So it's hard for me to visualize because I don't have the data. So having that data basically would be important. So if we can work with the counseling team and the administrative team to provide that data to the LSC, and perhaps we can make that private. So, but I don't know what the rules and regulations would be. So I defer to the administrative leadership team on that. And I want to make a couple comments. Mr. Coleman, I absolutely appreciate the effort that the counseling team has taken to translate the communication or to make the content and communication in Spanish. I think last week or a couple weeks ago, before final exam week, the counseling team held the scheduling course seminars, both in English and Spanish. And there was one session that was in Spanish that I think there were about 5 or 6 families that attended, and one of them is a personal close family of ours. And they absolutely appreciated that that was being offered, that it was being translated. You had the counselor, and then you had Ms. Olga Gutierrez, who was translating. So thank you so much, because as you correctly pointed out, 25% of our population are Spanish or identify as Latinx, and that a lot of us students who have participated in the LSC public participation have said, please translate the documents, because why should that burden fall on the students to translate it for their families when they already have a significant amount of responsibility in their education? So thank you so much. And then thank you for everything that the counseling team is doing. And I just wanted to say, I really, truly appreciate that the new JCP Counselors Corner YouTube and providing more information about Black Lives Matter and additional resources that our student can access. So thank you for that. I really, really do appreciate it. And I always look forward to your communications and new content.
Member Montevar, I wasn't prepared. I received your compliment, but I also want to say that from my perspective, I don't think that we as a team and we as a school are yet in a position to receive praise for the work that we're doing. We need to be doing it not yesterday, years ago, right? So I think I appreciate and receive on behalf of my team, and I'll absolutely let them know. And I think what I want the LSC to know, what I want students who have shared really powerful statements tonight have been sharing for some time, that we are committed to doing the work. And it's not easy. We're not always getting it right, but we are absolutely working as best we can to be receptive to what we're hearing from students and to be thoughtful and intentional about how we're moving forward. Absolutely.
Thanks so much. Any other questions, council members?
I did want to say, because I will have to step away, unfortunately, for another meeting tonight, which is bizarre because it's so late. But if there were any questions, particularly for me around SEL planning, I did want to create that space, if that's okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Does anyone ask about that? We do have a later item on the agenda more about talking about like what we can do as a council. I think that one would be. So if people have questions, what's being done already. And I think there'll be some discussion at the next meeting, of course, as well. So, oh, Ellen, go ahead.
So I was just going to ask to because Mr. Coleman, you aren't able to stay on for that part later. As a counseling department chair, as the counseling department chair, what supports would you be looking for from the LSC? How can the local school council support the work the counseling department is doing? I know that there's more discussion to be had later, but from your perspective, if there's anything at the top of your head, that'd be awesome. Also, not trying to put you on the spot if that has not.
Sure. I live on the spot, so I'm not pressed by that. I think, well, a few things come up. One, I think back to, July 14th last year, many members of the LSC were there. I was there. I think about, I've been able to attend one other meeting before today, and then this meeting now. I think a lot about trauma, and I think a lot about how what is shared in this space, particularly by marginalized students, can be incredibly traumatic. And re-triggering, re-traumatizing. I don't want to put words in anybody's mouth. I know for me, I was traumatized coming out of the meeting July 14th last year. So I would hope one piece I would hope for from the LSC moving forward, especially when there are students sharing painful personal pieces, that there's some sort of statement of, not even statement of support because that's words, but more scaffolding and structure around how that can be handled real time, and what supports can be made available for students real time if and when that occurs, because I've seen these conversations go in pretty intense, deeply emotional directions. So that would be helpful. I think for me, especially on the SEL front, and more information will be coming out from administration regarding the Protection of People's Rights Amendment, the PPRA. In the fall, Council Member or Chair Creswell raised some concerns about the data collection efforts from counseling. We had just completed surveying, our entire population in order to put forth some SEL interventions, particularly Tier 2 and Tier 3. And then based on the concerns and some reflection and the consult of district council in the absence of policy regarding the PPRA, we needed to destroy everything that we had collected. So in terms of our SEL programming right now, we're kind of stalled pending additional information from the district about how we collect data in a meaningful, intentional, legal way remotely. So patience, in part, is what I'm asking for, because you know, what we've experienced, particularly related to the PPRA, is new for the district at large, new for the counseling profession at large, and has really stalled, I feel, on behalf of my team, our ability to really make meaningful, impactful change in the middle of a global health crisis for our students around our programming, particularly understanding and being aware of what students are going through. We had information, and now we don't have anything. And we can't engage with them quickly, meaningfully, remotely, which is tough, right? But we are doing as best we can. So more than anything from the LSC, I really also appreciate the commitment to awareness around a larger SEL plan for Jones. I think that is really significant, and is moving. Like, I know I'm in counseling, right? But like, I don't manage the Eagle Lab component or the alternatives piece, or all, like, there are a few different stakeholder groups involved in a plan. And so the commitment to understanding how all the pieces fit together, I think, is to the good, and I'm very grateful for that. Did I answer your question, Councilmember Martin-Fleck?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you so much. And on that, especially, I'll say that, like, with the Eagle Day, where we needed to really advocate beyond the school level, that is a possibility for this too. And, you know, I've done a lot of work separate from Jones on privacy. And so, you know, like, these laws are not supposed to stop this sort of work, right? So the district should have this solved, and if we need to push them on that, then we need to do that as a, you know, as a concerted effort. So I'm happy to chat more offline with you about that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think at this stage, I think, so to be a little bit clearer when it comes to like, for example, we cannot ask questions via surveys around mental health related issues of students without proper parent permission beforehand. That is one of the big pieces of the PPRA. And that runs counter to established best practice in the school counseling profession, which I've taken steps to advocate for at the national level. What that means for CPS, though, is that the Office of School Counseling and Post-Secondary Advising is currently working on sort of standard surveys that can be used in not just Jones, but in every school at every level throughout the district. And as you would imagine, as one of the largest districts in the country, and with everything else going on, particularly around reopening, as was shared earlier tonight, the district has been delayed, but I know that they are working as hard as they can to get that to us. And I know that we are chomping at the bit to move, but it has been hard. I will not lie. It has been very, very difficult as a counselor and a member of the school team when you are ready to engage and intervene and feeling hamstrung. It's really, really hard. But we are trying to be as clear and transparent with our programming at every level. As Councilmember Manjavar talked about, our YouTube channel, if you ever question what we're talking about, we put out our entire curriculum for the year, as well as additional information on our website. So the long answer is that the district is working on it. I am partnering with the Office of School Counseling and Post-Secondary Advising on their next steps. And when it comes to the PPRA broadly, more information will be coming out to the school community in the next few days.
Great. Violet, do you have a question, comment? Go ahead.
I just wanted to tag back onto Ellen's statement. I just want to offer myself, Mr. Coleman, because I've heard from other people, actually, with my limited time here, that the counseling department has like the biggest access to like numbers and families that need translation. And so similar to what you said, like, I also feel re-triggered, like, being in this environment. And a part of it is because my parents didn't have the language access to adequately advocate for me while I was participating in my selective enrollment high school. And so as much as possible, like, I want to offer myself and like my email to whenever like you all need me for either translation services or like whatever else needs to take place in that. So I'm gonna like put my email in the chat, even though it's like public, but.
Hey, will you be Coleman12 at cps.edu? I'm saying that live on recording. Be Coleman12 at cps.edu. Please follow up with me. I'm going to copy and paste it into the notes on my computer as well. Looking at my tech savviness right now. Excellent. All right. Thank you. I received that so much, and I appreciate your willingness to support and collaborate. I think that is going to be, to the comment in the chat, this is an area of growth and opportunity for us as a school. We, as of yet, we did have a vendor that could support with interpretive and translation supports, particularly around our 504 IEP meetings. But I believe that company is no longer a CPS vendor. And so that was a roadblock that we ran into. But as of yet, we do not yet have a clear, structured way in which we can quickly interpret and translate for all of the different needs that we have around communication. That is absolutely an area that requires additional attention and resource.
Anything more from Mr. Coleman? We'll let him get it to his next meeting. Thanks.
Can I make one comment? I'm sorry, Madam Creswell, this is Member Menjivar. So you mentioned, Mr. Coleman, you mentioned that it is an opportunity for growth for translation, and that previously there was some sort of structure in place. And this question is for Dr. Powers to address something that Mr. Coleman said. Can we create a budget line so that we can offer our staff to be able to translate some of these documents and pay for those translations, right? In the counseling department, we have La Señora Olga Gutierrez, and I think in the front office, we have La Señora Irma Gamboa, and they both can translate. And I'm wondering if we can create this budget line, so have that funding for them to translate, to be paid to translate these things after school hours, because I can imagine that they're quite busy during the school day.
Yeah, Mr. Menjivar, that's a very good idea. It's something we've been trying to come up with a solution. Again, as Mr. Coleman mentioned earlier, previously we did have access to a vendor who could provide those services, but we need to find ways in which we can tap into the language skills of some of our staff members, not just the people in the main office, but possibly even our teaching staff who can assist us with some of these things. And the idea of having some additional funding available to support that, I think is something certainly worth looking into. So I appreciate the suggestion.
And before I go, I do just want to reiterate the incredible student advocacy, student-led advocacy, and the deep sharing that has occurred, the vulnerability. I don't want that to go without me speaking on that. And I really hope in some capacity there can be structured supports around when that sharing or disclosure does occur, how our students supported real time. I mean, that's the counselor in me, but like also just based on the trauma that students carry and have experienced, particularly around racism and many other isms, but particularly around racism, how that can be supported and scaffolded in a meaningful way. And these experiences, I think that would be a worthy inquiry and a request from counseling to the LSC.
And can I just quickly address that, Mr. Coleman? I'm so sorry. You're absolutely right. I don't want that to go by the wayside. There have been instances where the students have really been vulnerable in our LSC meetings, and I've been, torn about like what can we do right now to get them that support. And in many instances, it's me deferring or referring them, I should say, to the counseling department. And something that's in my equity report, I've been attending and been invited to a variety of programs that relate around racial equity, justice, healing workshops. And a lot of this is about having conversations in these healing circles and study circles and peace circles, and really baking them in, incorporating them, implementing them into our curriculum, into our day. I don't know if that's something that would, I find it very impactful and very strong. And it seems like the students are looking for that outlet, right? That space to be able to share. And I'm not a professional and how to facilitate those conversations. That's why I'm doing as much as I can to participate in these various programs so I can learn and try to absorb and try to support them in some way. Is that something that we could do at Jones? Is that something that the counseling department can be a part of to create those circles for our students and make them available during the class, during the school day, right? Maybe as part of the Eagle Day, as part of the shortened Eagle Day. So I just want to throw that out there and just get what your sense is.
Yeah, I don't want to speak out of turn with what Mr. Mitchell shared earlier and what Dr. Powers has shared. I think from my perspective, I think is it possible? Yes. I think I always struggle with, because this is not my role at Jones, is how all the pieces fit together. Like, as I think it's a wonderful idea, what that looks like on its feet during the school day. I don't necessarily know yet with our current structure, particularly around Eagle Day and particularly around when we might go to hybrid or live or what have you. And I think from the counseling perspective, when it comes to that level of small group work, small groups are really for like 10 to 12 students at max, right? So how many students could we serve in a meaningful, thoughtful, intentional way is something that comes up for me. And how would the healing circles fit into, like, I don't want us to roll out a healing circle model where the other pieces aren't in place to really support students and set them up for success. Like, if you're going through a healing circle and then you're hearing something racist from a peer or a teacher in your class immediately, that's not, I want to understand better from a tiered, intentional approach how that would fit. I think there is place for it, but I don't know from my purview in my role yet if we're there, if that makes sense. But I think it's a great idea.
Yeah, so I think some of this can be offline conversation, but
I'm
also
sorry.
we put on, no, it's totally, like, everything is it's really urgent. So we can also explicitly put it on the agenda for things like the equity committee, and, whether it's health and safety or equity, there might have to be some merging on these specific issues. So, but we really, I feel bad, like, taking your time more at this point. So thank you so much. And yes, thanks, Mr. Coleman. Bye. So I think we could take a short recess here, and then there's no PBLC report this month. Dr. Powers' principal report is very detailed and also very helpfully went out to the entire school. So I think that can be a pretty short item as well. And Friends of Jones, I think Jackie Papadopoulos just has a few bullet points, and with her permission, we might even just put those in the minutes. And so let's take a 5-minute recess and see what we can cover before when we return at, let's say, 8:27. We'll see what we can cover by 9, and whether we need to reconvene or push some stuff to another agenda. We'll check then. So everyone can take their personal break now.
take over 2 stickers so they won't come out. The other two keeps falling out.
Okay, it looks like it's 8:27. Let's see, we'd like to come back from reconvene after recess. Sarah, do you need to do like a roll call to ascertain who's here?
I should do a quick roll call just for.
Yeah.
Here goes. Bowman. Maybe we wait. Oh, her mic isn't working. Hi, Kim. Thank you. Boyd.
Here.
Bugs.
Present.
Serna Prado.
Here.
Cresswell.
Here.
Hernandez.
Present.
Hilbrands.
Here.
Ma here. Martinsek.
Here.
MacArthur.
Here.
Menjivar.
Present.
Powers.
Here.
Zen.
Here.
Okay, we're here.
Great. So let see what we can get through. For these reports, please try to keep your report in like no more than 3 minutes, since we've gotten them in advance for the principal report for equity and for health and safety. So Dr. Powers, you want to go ahead?
Certainly. Thank you very much. Before I go over some of the things in the principal's report this month, I'd like to take the opportunity to concur with the earlier comments of my colleague, Assistant Principal Eric Mitchell. The role of the local school council and its relationship with school administration is supposed to be one of support and collaboration. Since I became principal of Jones College Prep in 2008, that relationship has been the norm. The school leadership, faculty, staff, parents, students, the Friends of Jones, and the LSC have worked together to make Jones one of the very top performing schools in our city, our state, and our nation. Our 3-time recognition as a National Blue Ribbon School is testament to the hard work and dedication of our entire school community. I greatly appreciate the positive comments made earlier this evening by Mr. Menjivar, Ms. Ma, and a number of others, emphasizing the desire to collaborate. The current LSC has not always presented itself in a collaborative manner. Instead of respecting and supporting the work that has been done and is being done by our school team to meet the needs of all of our students and their families, and to address needs that may not yet have been fully met, especially in these extraordinary times, the LSC has often assumed a stance characterized by accusations and demands of the leadership team and ignore the work and dedication we have given our school family. This is my 47th year in the field of education, and I know who I work for. I work for the students, their families, and always striving to make Jones an even better place for our kids to learn and grow. As a leadership team, we work with our outstanding faculty and staff and families to provide our students with the best possible education to prepare them for success in their lives beyond high school. We want to work with the local school council so we can together build an even brighter future for Jones College Prep and the wonderful people that make up our Jones family. I hope and pray that we are able to establish a relationship that will make it possible for us all to learn and to grow together. None of us are perfect. We are all fallible. We are all human. But I feel like if we work together, we can accomplish great things. Thank you very much. And I'll just go over a couple of things with regard to the monthly report, which you all have copies of. Some of our stats have remained rather static here, and we will see a little bit of change as we go into the second semester with regard to on-track rates, attendance rates, and so forth. We received an outstanding computer science award from the College Board, the AP Computer Science Female Diversity Award, which we're very excited about. This is a tremendous accolade for Ms. Lilagan, Mr. Colodi, and Mr. Jaramillo, who are our 3 computer science teachers. Jones is one of only 831 schools to be recognized in this way nationwide. So this is a tremendous step forward for the computer science education in our school, and especially for our young women. The National Merit Scholarship Program, we did have 28 semifinalists of that out of that group, and the students who took the PSAT and MSQT in January, the juniors, will be getting their national merit related information sometime later. Well, not in this school year, but in the fall. We have had a number of things that have had to be done with regard to standardized assessments, all due to the pandemic. And I think we've handled those quite well, and our students have done exceptionally well. The national merit finalists for the current senior class will be announced very shortly. We have a SAT math prep class, which is also for juniors. This is the 13th year. We've offered either an SAT or earlier on an ACT prep class taught by Jones teachers. It's very, very popular. A few years ago, we decided to focus on math specifically, and we have great support from several members of the math department. We right now have over 150 juniors signed up and it started taking this prep class. There's a nominal cost of only $25, and it is free of charge to students who have fee waivers. And even those who pay the $25 can get a partial rebate if they have good attendance during this programming. With regard to in-person instruction, you've heard quite a bit lately with regard to the return of not only the cluster program in pre-K, but also the K through 8 phase-in of in-person attendance. There have been no announcements yet with regard to high school. However, the high school task force, of which I've been a member the last couple of months or so, has presented information and recommendations to senior leadership. And we are hoping to hear some idea in terms of what those recommendations might be in terms of an application for that, so that before the end of the school year, we're looking forward to the possibility of having some in-person attendance. And as I mentioned, the in-person attendance for the cluster program is scheduled to resume on Thursday of this week. This is an important item just to keep you up to speed on, because it is a significant impact on all the selective enrollment schools. I've mentioned it earlier, and that is the selective enrollment diverse learner enrollment update. The Corey H. Court decision from many years ago requires that all CPS schools enroll a percentage of students with IEPs equal to the percentage of such students in the district as a whole. Just to remind everyone, CPS has a growing percentage, about 14% of students have IEPs, but the percentage of most selective enrollment schools is much lower than that. For Jones, it's between 5 and 6%, and that has been going down. To begin rectifying this discrepancy, CPS will be offering an expanded number of seats for incoming freshmen with IEPs through the selective enrollment process. The Jones Task Force has developed a plan to provide services, programming, and resources required to meet the needs of our incoming students with IEPs. And that will be an ongoing process. It begins with this incoming freshman class and will continue from there. And finally, planning for our senior season. We're planning senior celebrations for later in the spring because of reopening being so uncertain. We're essentially developing parallel events schedules in different venues, some in person and or in virtual status, for our traditional senior events, which includes getting the panoramic picture, class picture, cupcake day, prom, honors convocation, graduation, etc. Earlier in the school year, seniors and their families received our in-person dates for some of these events, but we'll keep everyone informed how we might be moving forward. We're going to be sending out an updated set of information to our seniors and their families so that they have a little bit better of an idea of what's coming up. But again, some of those things are uncertain at this time, just as so many things are uncertain. So thank you very much for your attention.
Any questions for Dr. Powers, council members?
I have a quick clarification question about the attendance percentages. Like, what does that mean? Does that mean like percentage like of the time that all students were present, like the 91 percentage that's there?
That is correct. That's the average daily attendance for that month, or year to date, as it might be.
And does that only include absences? Is there like anything to keep track of tardies?
No, that only includes absences. Anything that's a tardy is considered below an absence level. But it does include both excused absences and unexcused absences. So even if a student is out due to a medical problem or something else, the student is certainly excused, but it still goes down as an absence.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other hands up? Yeah, so I just want to say, Dr. Powers, you know, everyone, I hope clearly knows how to email me. You have my phone number. Please do not feel like this is an adversarial relationship. I know it's very hard when we have a brand new council where almost everyone, I think besides you and Denaya, are brand new, and we have a very different style. So I think that it's expected that things will be, you know, as we all get into the swing of this, that we just need to work on these interpersonal relationships. There is possibly for LSCs to do trainings that are not just on like the LSC training modules, but also to do trainings as a group. So I think we should probably, you know, keep that in mind. And yes, Latrice is also a veteran, and as are Ellen and Kimberly, but really only since 6 months ago. So, and yeah, so it's a very new group, and I think we have to work out the interpersonal relationships. And, you know, I think it'll be a matter of personal style as we all figure that out. So
yeah, thank you very much. I appreciate those remarks. And again, I think one of the keys to all of this is making sure we keep our lines of communication very much open and very much shared, so that we all know kind of where we are, and we can build this kind of working relationship that is in the benefit of our kids and the benefit of our school.
the LSC's a partner with the school leadership and with the teaching staff, so to keep that in mind. Find my agenda page. The student report, Denaya, do you want to go ahead?
Yeah, I'll make it super duper quick. I'm gonna shorten my 2 bullet points kind of down to requests, because I think that's easier and it takes a lot less time. So the first request was the attendance reporting, and I see that the percentage for like daily attendance is obviously very high. But as I stated in the previous LSC meeting, a lot of students are reporting disengagement with those with classes, and like maybe showing up like very, very late. And even if they're marked present for the day, they're not really like there learning and engaging. And that kind of segues into my next point about finals performance. So an idea that I talked about with a few other like student leaders is the idea, sorry if you hear any noise in the background, is the idea for kind of a casual academic report, if that makes any sense. We'd like teacher feedback specifically about finals performance by students. I know in a lot of classes, finals grades are like drastically like lower than like they would be in person. And we want, obviously we've been hearing a lot from students about, you know, screen time and, you know, all of these, you know, effects of online learning, but we haven't heard that much from teachers. And we really like teachers to let us know, get feedback from them about how like adequately like online learning is going, whether or not they think students are actually sticking to the material. And I think from there, once we like get some sort of, like we gauge that in some way, like a survey or something like that, we should install more, I guess you could call it policies for online learning. I know online learning is already very stressful, but some teachers some teachers switching from semester 1 to semester 2 have like implemented like new policies, like cameras, like it's strongly encouraging cameras be on and things like that. I think that the administration and students can work together, as well as teachers, to kind of develop more policies like that. Obviously, once we get the data about student performance on finals. But I think that if this is going to be a long-term thing, we are hearing like more like, I don't know, like better things about going back, at least like by the spring. But if this is going to be a long-term thing where students are still in school, and we are hearing so many parents talk about, you know, how the student isn't really performing well and isn't really engaging well, then I think we need to kind of make a better plan for student academic performance, because we don't want to go into the next school year where we will be in person with a lot of learning time lost. I hope that all made sense. I tried to kind of shorten it out, but yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Denaya. Yeah, the PPLC does, I don't know if you do monthly surveys, Ellen and Kim, but maybe that is something that you can work with Denia or the Student Voice Committee on, like specific questions to add even. But yeah, so any questions for Denia on that, or?
If I may, I want to thank Denia for bringing up some of those points, especially with regard to students who are becoming disengaged, especially hiding behind their avatars, clocking in, they're quote present, but not really being fully engaged. This is one of the reasons why we pressed so hard and continue to press hard for the focus on our Eagle Day, so that we have more time off the screens as well, which could potentially encourage students to stay more focused on the times when there are classes in session. I think most of our teachers have reported, at least in the conversations we've had through the ILT, that they feel like by and large their students are pretty well engaged, but sometimes it's a little difficult to know, and we do undoubtedly have individual cases where that's a major problem for a number of our kids, far more than it would be if we were in-person learning. It's the equivalent of being absent from school. But attendance does have to be taken at the beginning of each period, and a student who's not there is a student who is not there, whether they're officially present or they're present behind their avatar. They're sometimes absent, let's put it that way. Anything we can do to try to keep the kids engaged, and I know our teachers are doing a lot to have actively engaged activities in the classroom. So it's not just a matter of, the kids are there and they just sit and listen. There are ways in which, and I know our teachers are doing that, they're actively engaging the students in the learning activities.
Yeah, I think maybe verbal attendance this is very specific, but obviously something that will work a lot. I know a lot of teachers just use like the automatic Google Chrome extension to take attendance. But yeah, just better ways to engage students. I think it would benefit teachers and students, especially emotionally. I know like we're all missing each other. We're all like missing seeing each other in the hallways and everything like that. So yeah, that sounds really good. Thank you.
Thanks, Denia. So there is no PPLC report. Are there questions that you guys had that you wanted addressed, or are they separate from other on other things? And then Friends of Jones, Jackie. Let me see if she's here.
Yeah, I'm still here, but I will defer my report until the next meeting, just in the interest of time.
Okay, we could. I think you have a couple bullet points, and we could put them in the minutes for people so that they are, recorded and can cover them in more detail.
That would be fine. Our next board meeting is on Thursday at 8 a.m. The link is on the Friends of Jones Facebook page, and it's also on the Friends of Jones website. And I would just like it noted that anything that we have in our bullet points are things that are essentially 1 month old from our last meeting. And so we have updates that will be at our meeting on Thursday that are probably a little bit more timely.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
Thanks. The budget committee has not met yet as the budget committee, and I think there is due before the end of this meeting under new business. Is that basically?
Yeah, that's fine. I just announced our first meeting is March 2nd at 12 p.m. and I'll work with Dr. Powers to get that information out to people. Thank you.
Great, thanks. For the equity committee, Roberto shared a very detailed report, and I think especially is looking for more members for the equity committee. Do you want to go ahead, Roberto?
I do. So thank you so much. As mentioned in my report, member Latrice MacArthur had emailed me indicating that she thought it was best that I be the sole chair while she continue to serve as the chair of the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee for the Friends of Jones, and that we would collaborate with each other and try to harness both of those resources. So I don't know if it's proper, but I'd like the LSC to recognize me as the chair. So I don't know if that needs to be a roll call vote, but I just wanted to put that out there. And then, so Secretary Ma or Madam Creswell, Dr. Powers, do you guys think that's necessary?
I think it's fine because you're co-chair, so like you'll exist as the chair already.
Yeah, I'll just reflect in the minutes the change. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And then the other thing is I'd like member Cerda Prado, she had emailed me and expressed an interest in being part of the equity committee. So I'd like to nominate her as the vice chair to help me begin this organizational work and launch the committee.
I second.
We don't vote on that. I'm sorry. You can do that during your meeting.
Okay, I just want to make sure that I'm being transparent. And then the final, the other thing is, I would love to, I would love to invite and ask member Elaine Buggs to join us, to join the equity committee. Member Buggs, you have expressed a lot of the things that I think our students have expressed in many occasions. So I ask you to just to please consider being a part of the equity committee and being a partner in the work that we need to do and collaborating with the administrative leadership team and with the equity, the Friends of Jones equity team. So something to consider, Member Buggs, and I hope you'll consider it and just reach out to me. The other thing I wanted to mention is that I've been attending a variety of professional developments or events that I just mentioned, and I just want to highlight a couple things that I think have been incredibly impactful. Are these, as I mentioned earlier, these racial healing truth circle, peace circles. They have been led by incredible facilitators as well as student facilitators. I've been part of the Makaiba Challenge. Yesterday, I attended a Makaiba Challenge event regarding the SRO programs, alternatives to SRO, and it's just incredibly impactful. And I think that's something that the LSC and the Jones School community should truly consider. I know that's in the works. I know that's part of that is in the works. And then the only last thing that I'd like to mention is closing thoughts, is that it's clear that Jones students continue to demand a need and a desire to address these pervasive systems and structures of racism, racial inequities within our school community that continue to harm Jones Black students and students of color, as well as LGBTQ students. So I think it's important that we all work together and truly be partners in this work so we can help, so we can support our students. And those are my reports. The last one final thing that I want to mention is that we will be hosting our first organizational meeting within 3 weeks. And I will work with Secretary Ma and Member Hillbrands to post that on the website to invite the community to participate, and then we'll be making the selection process. Thank you.
Thanks, Roberto. Just to mention to people, there's also an LSC Instagram and an LSC Facebook page. So we're posting stuff on that too. So definitely use that to follow along too, especially for committee meetings, as another place you can find that info. Rachel is up next for the Health and Safety Committee.
Hi everyone. I'll make it pretty quick. But in my report, I just outlined that the Health and Safety Committee held our first meeting on Thursday, January 28th, and it was an organizational meeting. But we also had a conversation about the new Eagle Days, as well as the reopening situation, I guess you could call it. And so we do have 4 established members at the present moment, and myself included in that. And then Violetta is going to be vice chair, and Daniel Andrade is going to be our secretary, and Sochi Esparza is going to be another permanent member as well, but I would love to have more permanent members on the committee, and I hope that other members also want more members on the committee. The only requirement is that you just have to show up to every meeting, I think. So if anyone is interested, please come. I have not talked with the other members about when our next meeting is going to be, but it will be at the end of this month, I'm assuming. But we talked about the new Eagle Days at Jones, and we also got to talk about how a Jones student actually spoke at the recent Chicago Board of Education meeting, talking about the flexibility, or what we hope to be flexibility around synchronous learning as we are staying remote. Adrian Zamudio is that student, and he is also the student who compiled the testimonials from students about Eagle Days and what the loss of Eagle Days kind of means for students, especially right now. And we talked about the reopening situation and how the reopening letter that the council unanimously passed last month, while important, has no power to close the school or make any sort of material impact on that decision whatsoever, and it is a gesture of solidarity with the other 137 local school councils across the city that put forth similar letters to the district. And as the Health and Safety Committee, we are dedicated to informing the community about any updates regarding this situation. Though I'll admit myself, I check the news multiple times a day, and I honestly struggle to know what's going on between various stakeholders in the debate. But and then the last point is about what the committee wants to do next, and I think we are all kind of trying to think about how to increase our connection with the community at large. And I'll just say it right now, I mean, the documents and we're trying to make sure that there's translation, hopefully maybe more than one language of the documents that we put out, and also the meetings that we have. But that doesn't really mean anything if the members of the Jones community aren't aware that the meetings are going on, or don't have any, can't see themselves in the issues that those committees bring up. So I just want to say, like, translation is great, but it is not the end all be all. And I think I just personally want to put that out there because, it's great to, pat yourself on the back when you get things done, but you got to keep the ball rolling, I guess. So I just want to make that clear. So that is the report. The last thing, is that we did vote as a committee on a recommendation related to the new Eagle Days at Jones. That includes a suggestion related to faculty compliance that responds to the needs that some students expressed at the meeting that we had last month.
Great. If you want to just lay out the recommendation, if it's something that you guys wanted us to take up as a motion or a suggestion for a motion, then
definitely. The recommendation essentially is expressing gratitude and appreciation for the activities that Dr. Powers outlined in his email, and regarding the new Eagle Days. And there's just a couple of activities on our recommendation that we thought might be useful to add based on what students have requested. And one of those is a kind of measure to make sure that teachers are complying essentially with the suggestion to not give additional material or quizzes or any graded content on Wednesdays. And so Violetta had the idea to include a question in a survey that will be going out to students at the end of this month, I believe. That's going to be created by the SGA to kind of ask how the new Eagle Days are going. And basically a question in there might look like, are there any teachers who are not necessarily complying with this requirement for Wednesdays? And would you like to say more about that? Basically kind of giving students the opportunity to speak to that if it's an issue. But since tomorrow is the first new Eagle Day, I don't want to make it seem like there's already a problem. But that's just so that students feel feel sure that teachers are going to comply basically with this suggestion.
Dr. Cresswell, if I could follow up on that. Thank you very much, Ms. Zen. I think the recommendations or the suggestions in terms of expanding, what we created originally was essentially suggestive of things that can be done, things that should not be done. There clearly are some good ideas, additional, and some further clarifications regarding to homework due and things like that. We'll be taking this to the ILT at a near future meeting and communicating this with faculty and staff. I want to make sure that even though our Eagle Day is somewhat truncated compared to what it was, we want to make the absolute most of it because this is very essential for our kids and their well-being, and actually not only just their students, but our faculty and staff members as well. So thank you for those suggestions.
Go ahead, Sarah. I just have a quick question, which is, Dr. Powers, how does the surveys by SGA normally, do they present that to you, that information? Are you concerned with those questions? Would you want to see more specifics as opposed to like an open-ended thing? Or is it just, would the data be used? That's my question.
Well, the data would certainly be used, and SGA and other student organizations have submitted surveys. Constructing a really viable survey is a tricky business. Sometimes you get a whole lot of data that doesn't necessarily mean anything, and it cannot be necessarily quantified, and becomes primarily impressionistic, I guess you might say. So anything that is done should be done in such a way that it really tries to reflect what are the trends, what are we seeing, and is, for example, every student has 7 regular classes plus their academic lab / Eagle Lab. Are these guidelines being met in those classes, for example? Are we seeing a general trend towards certain kinds of activities over other activities? We want to put a great emphasis on the creativity involved here. We want our students and our faculty members to work together to come up with ways in which to best use. Obviously, the final decision is in the hands of the individual teachers or at their department level or their team level. But at the same time, getting ideas from students that will help to make these lively, supportive sessions that can be things the kids will look forward to, and they'll leave essentially at the quote end of the day at 12:35, feeling like they had a productive morning without having had additional stress or additional work placed on them in any way, and then they have the rest of their afternoon to work asynchronously. So I'm looking forward to seeing how well this goes. Unfortunately, it's going to be hard to walk from classroom to classroom to see this in person, because obviously that's very difficult to do. But our students and our faculty members are going to provide us, I think, with some solid feedback on this. And we have a good solid 4 weeks coming up here with Eagle Days. So something toward the end of this month, basically the end of March or near the end of March, would be a good timing, I think, for it.
Is there someone that Rachel and her group could work with? Would she work directly with you or with staff to maybe make sure the questions that the SGA wants to ask are, well developed from a survey perspective?
Certainly, myself, Mr. Mitchell, any one of us really can help out in that regard. And again, it should be something that doesn't take forever to fill out. Just a 5-minute type of thing where we can really get some good data that we can then share with faculty and staff and evaluate how effective things are going. But it's going to take a few weeks before people have a strong trend in mind with regard to their classes. Yep.
Thanks, Rachel. Thanks, Dr. Powers. I can say the SGA survey that they did about that asked some stuff about how students were using Eagle Days was extremely helpful with the meeting with the vice chair of the Board of Ed Sendil Revuluri. So that was great that they had done that and could pull it up on the spot. And it was, I think, really impactful in terms of his receptiveness to this idea. So yeah, I'm really happy they did that. Okay, so
and Trinity is in the chat saying, sorry, I just want to.
I can't see the chat, so yeah, thanks.
Just that Trinity was at our meeting as well, and she said she's already contacted Dr. Fay. It's been a draft of the survey, so thank you, Trinity.
Great. Sarah, go ahead.
Old hand.
Oh, okay, great. So for our old business, I'm not sure where we left it last time on the translation and interpretation. We're just trying the streaming thing for the meetings in terms of interpretation, and I think we'll kind of like have to see if what the quality of the captions are, and see how useful people think that is. With documents, we're kind of cobbling it together with various things, depending on whether it's a communication that we want to go out as an LSC to like the whole school. On the agenda, it's not super hard to get the agenda translated, especially as we go forward and lots of stuff repeats. So this item is really just about the LSC interpretation and translation. And to the extent we can use some technology to do that, I think some of that will be very helpful. So I think we'll have to continue this discussion ongoing and see how these first initial steps of what we've done have worked. And yeah, I'm happy to put this on old business until we feel like we're really happy with the amount of accessibility that we're achieving. So under new business, I think the crucial item for tonight is to vote on the vote on the item over $2,500. And then I contacted Christy Yamalaka, and I think we can have her come in March, or maybe come to the equity committee in the next couple of weeks. And then perhaps there'll be a step to take. And I think the other ones we can also postpone as well. So let's do new business item 8A. And
yeah, I can just make a motion unless anyone has any questions about the $5,000 for sound programming and $4,312.50 for BSN Sports, which is a goal strike machine for the PE department. So if anyone has any questions, you can ask Dr. Powers. Otherwise, I'll make a motion.
I'll second that motion.
I didn't make it yet. It's not me.
I was ready.
I know. Does anyone have any questions, I guess?
This is Menjivar. I do have a question about the Gold Strike attack machine for $4,312.50. And I think I saw something in here that stated that it was for both the PE and the soccer teams. Are we anticipating that the soccer teams are going to have a season? And is it the male or the female, or the boys or girls soccer team that's coming up?
It actually is going to be both, with truncated seasons through the spring and into June. Also, CPS just today gave the go-ahead for winter sports. So we have a schedule that's going to be coming out in the next couple of days with that information. But again, the plan is to have both a boys and girls soccer seasons, but again, in a shortened fashion, spreading all the way into June.
And then just thank you for that. And following up on that question, so this is for one goal strike machine, which I'm not sure what that is. How are the boys and girls going to share that machine? If both the boys and girls are going to be, if they're going to have the season at the same time?
They're not having the seasons at the same time. It'll be one, then the other. If I'm not mistaken, as we get into an early spring season for the boys, because they were the fall season that got scrubbed, and then the girls season follows that. But again, we have more information coming up on the winter, and we can try and project what the spring is going to be. But they will not be trying to practice simultaneously because we only have one field, and it's really not possible. And we've got other things that have to use the field as well. So 2 soccer teams going at the same time would be problematic.
Thank you for that. I just wanted to make sure that, you know, that this machine was going to be used equitably between the girls and the boys soccer team. Thank you so much.
Definitely. And the same with physical education.
I'm ready to entertain a motion, Sarah. Unless there's no other hands up.
Sorry, this is my mute. I make a motion to approve the following check requisitions: $5,000 to sound programming and $4,312.50 to BSN Sports.
I second that emotion. I second that motion.
Second that emotion. Okay. Mr. Mendivar. And I will take a roll call vote. Bowman.
Yay.
Boyd.
Yay.
Bugs.
Yes.
Serna Prado. Cresswell.
Oops. Yes.
Hernandez.
Yes.
Hilbrands.
Yay.
Ma, yes. Martinsek.
Yes.
MacArthur.
Yay.
Mendivar.
Yay.
Powers.
Yay.
Zen.
Yay.
That's 13 out of 13 were yays, and it was approved. Thank you.
So left for this evening, I think for item G, Roberto, if you could email the council that, I think that would be very helpful. And hopefully everyone is making progress.
Yeah, if I can just mention, I mean, this is a real quick update. I think it's important for everybody to understand this. So we did get a records request as it stated in my report. I believe we've complied with that records request for the minutes and materials from the January 12th and 19th meeting. The big thing that everybody needs to do is the OMA training. I spoke with the Illinois Assistant Attorney General Leah Bartlett, who's with the Public Access Board. And she was absolutely clear that all council members must complete the OMA training and present the OMA designee with that certification or that certificate. So every member has 90 days, and you only have to do it once in your lifetime. And if you have that certificate from 10 years ago, 20 years ago, all you got to do is just email it to me. We've had 4 members, 5 members, including myself, who've completed the OMA. So please complete the OMA within the 90 days that you took your seat and provide me with the certificate. Thank you so much.
Thanks. And then for item 8F, this is something I think is most appropriate for the Health and Safety Committee to, oh, sorry, Roberta, if you could send a link around for that, I think that'd be great. It's just online and it's pretty simple, like untechy for an online training. So Roberta will share that with everyone via email. For 8F, this is something I know that a lot of people have questions like last meeting and previously even, and you know, it's come up at this meeting as well, that we a larger plan for social emotional learning and for mental health supports. And I think it's not just a counseling issue, but it certainly is highlighted by having a counseling department here. I think this is something that we should probably be looking into the CIWP. You know, we have, I think, 4 priorities in the CIWP. You can have up to 5, and you can modify them, you know, in that 2-year period that your CIWP exists. That's the continuous improvement work plan. So the school improvement plan is the more casual way to say that for the audience. And so I think really looking at that to see if either a priority could be added or goals could be added under an existing priority to talk about this will be helpful in knowing as an LSC monitoring this and figuring out, especially before spring budget season, what our priorities are and whether we're supporting this. And so I think I would like for the Health and Safety Committee, which to tackle this basically. And I don't know if we actually have to vote to send something to them like that, or if it's just we can talk about it now and Rachel can take that up with the committee at their upcoming meeting.
Dr. Cresswell, if I may, we are working on developing a comprehensive plan to bring together all the various supports and services that already exist and that we are continuing to develop for, especially with regard, for example, to the Eagle Days and the Eagle Lab element that we have available to us. And we will have a comprehensive report available at the next LSC meeting. We'll have that actually prior to the meeting to present, and we'll be going over that, trying to not only compile what there is already in place, what we are currently working on, and the connections among those various elements, of which there are several, including counseling services, our MTSS programming, our mentoring programs, the Eagle Day, Eagle Lab opportunities that we've developed, and so forth. So we will have a comprehensive plan that we would like to present to the LSC at the March meeting.
And so are you the point person for that, or is it like, are you the best person for, like, if the committee wants to ask more questions about it?
Sure.
And about this? Okay.
I'm sharing that at this time, yes.
Great. Yeah, so that's probably something like you and Rachel can connect on. And then related to that, we should wrap it up, but I saw Dr. Plunkett in the meeting, and, you know, to the extent what her capacity is on the CIWP, is she the right person to ask about CIWP questions if LSC members have questions on it?
That is correct. Yes, she chaired that effort.
Okay. Great. That is super helpful. Okay. As always, both to the council and to the audience, please send me agenda items, and that goes for the members of the public too, if people have things that they want to see discussed. I think that the bylaw thing we can talk about next time, and also the Positive Coaching Alliance, we can push those to March. So we do have final public participation. I don't think we need it. We weren't overflowed, and a huge demand at the beginning, so I think we're good. So do members have any other business that we haven't addressed here? Yeah, looking for hands. Oops, Dr. Barnes, you have your hand up. Oh, that's a false hand.
I would just say that the stream eventually I was able to fix it, but so I'll share that with the members if you need to look back at anything, and I'll share it in conjunction with the minutes. But if you see anything in the minutes that you would like changed, please let me know, especially before I write them. Thank you.
If I may add one last thing, and that is anything we can do to try to streamline our meetings, because as you notice, for example, we started off with almost 60 people in attendance. We're now down to 26. That drops pretty rapidly after 2 hours. And it essentially, some people are not being able to be engaged because as it gets later and later in the evening, they have other obligations like going to bed, having dinner, things like that. And I don't mean that to be snarky, but I think there are ways in which we can not just speed up, but streamline and still get the work done and do so effectively. And it does not have to be always 3 or 4 hours. I realize this is an upfront sort of thing. We're trying to get some things started here at the beginning, but anything we can do to still do our work and do it effectively, but do it efficiently, I think would be much appreciated by everybody concerned.
Yes, we certainly made progress from last month. I really want everyone to take very seriously the idea of you write your report, we share it out ahead of time so that we can just have questions. And I think people can also really think about their comments and with respect to whether it's something that is really an offline discussion or whether it is something that can sum up in a sentence. And so definitely for everyone cognizant on that. But also to say that that's why we have public participation early, because we know the public wants to come and address us. And so, you know, to the extent that we can do that and also have guests early on the agenda, I think it's helpful. I think council members need to realize that they have to be committed to this, and you know, we will certainly try to be as efficient as we can. So, and in that vein, yes, I think if seeing no other business, I think we can adjourn.
I move that we adjourn.
I second that.
Okay, I'm gonna do a roll call then. Sorry. Bowman?
Yeah.
Boyd?
Yes. I think my mic is not working.
It's working, yeah, it works. Boyd?
Yay.
Bugs?
Yes.
Serna Prado?
Yes.
Cresswell?
Yes.
Hernandez?
Yes.
Hilbrands?
Yay.
Ma, yay. Martin Sec?
Yay.
MacArthur?
Yay.
Menjivar?
Yay.
Powers?
Yay.
Zen?
Yay.
13, lucky 13. Enjoy your evening.
Yep. Meeting adjourned. Good night.
Good night, everyone.
Take care.
Good night.
Oh, Miss Ma. Hi, it's Daniel. I just had a worry. I noticed that like you guys opened the Meet to the Google Meet to everyone because of the YouTube problem.
Yeah.
But just in case, like, if it happens again and you need to let people in, I have like a worry that it's really like easy to unmute and to show your camera, and I don't want issues like before where anyone can just come in. And also when asking questions, like there's really no vetting process of like making sure, oh, a student won't come in here saying they want to ask a question and then does something inappropriate. So those are just my worries. I don't know how we can get around them. But yeah.
No, I appreciate that comment. I'm going to make note of that. I'm obviously equally as worried. It's
yeah, yeah. So yeah, those are just my worries, but I'm pretty sure we can come up with something, but it is late tonight, so that can be another day issue.
I appreciate it.
Yeah. Okay. So have a nice night. Okay.
You
Bye.
too.
Bye, Mr. Hilbrands.
Bye, Troy.
Hi. So I read somewhere there's such a thing as ghosting. So I'm waiting till everyone's out and then I'm going to close the meeting.
Yeah, I'm gonna let me stop streaming. Do I want to stop the stream? Yes. Oh, so like when you leave, they can still hang out?
Yeah. So basically they open up a different tab, and when you close out, they can reopen the meeting and become the owner of it.
Oh, that's terrible.
Yeah. And I also need to try to save the.
Oh, I've been saving the chat.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, I just kept copying and pasting because I got nervous. And there were some really good digs in there, you know?
By the way, we're still recording.
Oh, it's fine. It's fine. I mean, some of them were at me, so I'm good. I appreciate people's comments, you know.
I'm still gonna grab it just in case.
No, it's a good idea. And then I'm going to need you to convert the beginning of this. And I'll let you know to what time then the stream started working. It's up to you. We could have 2 streams. You could convert the whole thing.
Yeah.
And if you could convert the 19th very soon for that one woman, that would be great.
That's up right now. I have it currently linked to the old one, and I'm still working on that.
Is the link in the spreadsheet yet or no?
No, it's on the website.
Oh, it's on the website. Okay, great. I'll put it.
But that's only temporary. That's going to be removed.
Okay, then I will. Oh, I see. It's temporary. I know. I just want to answer her and give her that
It will permanently be there at some point.
Right.
Pointing to the LSC.
Yeah.
But yeah, it'll be up there where they have it continuously. So yeah, and this does not seem to be.
Point her to I'll point her to the website. I get
Okay.
it. Yeah. Okay. Meetings. Meeting recording. All right. Thank you.
All right. See you later.
I'll leave.